Blood dripped from my nose onto my parents' doorstep as I pounded weakly with my good arm. My shoulders screamed in agony, hanging at an unnatural angle. 20 minutes ago, my brother-in-law Marcus had thrown me against their kitchen counter because I wouldn't sign mortgage papers. My sister stood there watching, then said I deserved it for being selfish. Now as consciousness slipped away and my knees buckled, I heard my mother's scream through the door. Everything went black before I could tell her what happened. 3 weeks earlier, life seemed normal. I worked as a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, living in my small one-bedroom apartment in Center City. My daily routine consisted of 12-hour shifts, caring for sick children, grabbing coffee from the cart outside the hospital, and collapsing into bed with just enough energy to water my struggling succulent collection. My sister Lauren had always been the family's golden child. 5 years older than me, she'd married Marcus Fitzgerald right out of college. He worked as a senior real estate agent at one of the city's premier firms, always dressed in perfectly tailored suits and driving his latest model BMW. Their wedding had been a country club affair with 300 guests, a string quartet, and flowers that cost more than my car. They lived in a stunning 4-bedroom colonial in Radnor, complete with a circular driveway and professionally landscaped gardens. Every holiday, Lauren would give us tours of their latest renovations. The kitchen with its waterfall marble island, the master bathroom that looked like a spa, the finished basement with a full bar and theater system. Mom would beam with pride while Dad nodded approvingly at Marcus's business acumen. That particular Sunday started like any other family dinner. Mom had made her famous pot roast the dining room table set with her wedding china. I arrived straight from a particularly difficult shift where we'd lost a young patient to leukemia. The weight of that loss still pressed on my chest as I forced smiles and made small talk. Lauren looked radiant as always, her blonde hair freshly highlighted, wearing a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. Marcus sat beside her, scrolling through his phone between bites, occasionally showing her something that made them both smile conspiratorially. "We have exciting news," Lauren announced as Mom served dessert, her apple pie made from scratch like everything else. "Marcus and I are expanding our investment portfolio." Dad perked up at this. A retired accountant, he loved talking finances with Marcus. "Smart thinking in this market. What are you considering?" Marcus set down his phone, his salesman's smile clicking into place. "There's an incredible property in Ardmore. 4 units perfect for rental income. The numbers are phenomenal." Mom clasped her hands together. "How wonderful you two are, so ambitious. Jacqueline, isn't this exciting?" I nodded, genuinely happy for them despite my exhaustion. Financial success had never been my priority. I'd chosen pediatric nursing knowing it would never make me wealthy. But seeing my sister thrive had always brought me joy, even if our paths diverged so dramatically. "The seller is motivated." Marcus continued, his green eyes sharp with calculation. "We need to move fast. Banks are being conservative with investment loans right now, wanting additional security." Lauren reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Her manicured nails pressed into my skin just slightly. "Which brings us to our request. We need a co-signer for the mortgage. Family helps family, right, Jacqueline?" The room went silent. Even the grandfather clock in the hallway seemed to pause its ticking. Everyone's eyes turned to me. Mom's hopeful, Dad's expectant, Lauren's confident, Marcus's calculating. My throat went dry. A co-signer. That's a big responsibility. "Not really." Marcus jumped in smoothly. "With our income and credit, it's just a formality. Banks want to see family support for investment properties. You wouldn't actually be responsible for anything." Something in his tone made my nursing instincts flare. The same feeling I got when parents lied about how their child got injured. "Can I see the financial details first? The property information, your loan terms?" Marcus's face darkened like a storm cloud passing over the sun. His jaw clenched and I saw Lauren's hand move to his knee under the table. Lauren's perfect smile faltered. She tilted her head, studying me with eyes that suddenly seemed cold. "If you trusted us, you wouldn't need to see anything." The pressure started Monday morning. I'd barely clocked in for my shift when my phone buzzed with the first text from Lauren. "Hey sis, just wanted to follow up on yesterday. When can we meet to sign the papers?" I tucked the phone away, focusing on my morning rounds. The pediatric ward demanded full attention. IV medications to administer worried parents to comfort charts to update. But the messages kept coming. "Hello, I know you're working, but this is important. The seller won't wait forever, Jacqueline. Why are you ignoring your family?" By lunch break, I had 17 texts and 4 missed calls. I finally responded, "Lauren, I need time to think about this. Can we talk this weekend?" Her response came instantly. "Time." It's a simple signature. "Remember when you needed help with your college applications? I spent weeks helping you." The guilt trip had begun. Tuesday brought escalation. Lauren called during my break, her voice syrupy sweet with an undertone of steel. "Jacqueline, honey, I'm worried we got off on the wrong foot. Let me explain why this is so important. Marcus has worked incredibly hard to find this opportunity. His reputation is on the line with the seller." I sat in the hospital cafeteria pushing around a sad-looking salad. "I understand that, but co-signing means I'm equally responsible for the loan. What if something goes wrong?" "Nothing will go wrong." Her laugh sounded forced. "God, when did you become so negative? This isn't like you. Are you okay? Is someone influencing you?" The conversation deteriorated from there. She brought up every favor she'd ever done. Driving me to school when I was in middle school, lending me her car for prom, introducing me to her friend group in college. Each memory twisted into a weapon. Wednesday, Marcus appeared at the hospital. I emerged from a patient room to find him chatting with the charge nurse, his 1,000-watt smile on full display. My colleague Tracy was actually giggling at something he'd said. "There's my favorite sister-in-law." He boomed loud enough for the entire floor to hear. "Brought you lunch from that Thai place you love." He held up a bag from a restaurant I'd mentioned once, maybe 2 years ago. The gesture would seem thoughtful to observers, but I recognized the calculated move. Marcus never did anything without an angle. "That's so sweet," Tracy gushed. "Jacqueline, you're lucky to have such a caring family." I forced a smile, accepted the bag. "Marcus, this is a surprise. I'm actually about to start rounds." "I'll walk with you," he said smoothly. "Just for a minute. I know how busy you are saving lives and all." He turned to Tracy. "She's amazing, isn't she? So dedicated. That's why we trust her completely with important family matters." The manipulation was masterful. In one conversation, he'd painted me as both a hero and someone who should naturally help family without question. As we walked down the hallway, his demeanor shifted. "Lauren's really hurt," he said quietly. "She feels like you don't trust us. After everything she's done for you." "This isn't about trust." I kept my voice low, aware of colleagues nearby. "It's about financial responsibility. Why do you need a co-signer if your finances are so solid?" His smile tightened. "Investment properties have different requirements. It's just bureaucracy. But if you can't help family..." He shrugged, letting the threat hang. Thursday brought my parents into the campaign. Mom called while I was grocery shopping after work. "Sweetheart Lauren came by today. She was crying." My stomach sank. "Mom..." "She told me about the investment property. Such a smart move for their future. Your father agrees it's an excellent opportunity." I stood in the cereal aisle, exhausted, still in my scrubs. Did she mention it requires me to co-sign a mortgage, that I'd be legally responsible for hundreds of thousands of dollars? "Oh, honey, that's just paperwork. You know Marcus handles all the finances. They'd never let anything happen to your credit." Mom's voice carried that particular tone she used when defending Lauren. Family supports each other. When Lauren graduated college, she helped you with your applications. "Mom, she proofread 2 essays. This is completely different." "Is it..." Her voice cooled. "Jacqueline Marie, I didn't raise you to be selfish. Your sister has always been there for you." The conversation ended with Mom's disappointment hanging heavy through the phone. Dad called an hour later with his own lecture about family obligations and missed opportunities. Friday afternoon, while reviewing patient charts, I got a text from my college friend Amy. "Hey, weird question. Did you already co-sign something for Lauren? She posted on Facebook thanking family for supporting their new investment." My blood ran cold. I immediately checked social media. There it was. Lauren's post with a photo of the property, gushing about their new venture and grateful for family who believe in our dreams. The comments were full of congratulations and assumptions about my involvement. Marcus had tagged me with a heart emoji. I called Lauren immediately. "What is this post? I haven't agreed to anything." "Oh, that," she sounded breezy. "I was just excited. I knew you'd come around. You always do." "Take it down now." "God, you're so dramatic." "Fine, but people are going to wonder why you're not supporting us." That evening, exhausted and frustrated, I opened my laptop. If they wanted to play games, I'd do my homework. What I found changed everything. A simple property record search revealed the first red flag. The amazing investment they'd described wasn't what it seemed. But that was just the beginning. Public records told a story Lauren had hidden. 3 mechanics' liens against Marcus's real estate business. 2 lawsuits from former clients claiming fraudulent misrepresentation. His real estate license had been suspended twice in other states before he'd moved to Pennsylvania. My hands shook as I dug deeper. Their perfect house in Radnor, a notice of default had been filed 2 months ago. They were in pre-foreclosure. The BMW Marcus drove leased under his company name, which showed a tax lien. The investment property they wanted wasn't an investment at all. It was their attempt to use rental income to save their house. The loan amount they needed was staggering, over $600,000, more than twice my annual salary as a nurse. My phone lit up with another text from Lauren. "You're coming to Sunday dinner, right? We can sign the papers after dessert. Make this easy on everyone." I screenshotted every document, every lien, every lawsuit. My computer's clock showed 2 in the morning, but sleep was impossible. How had I never seen through their perfect facade? How many family dinners had they attended while drowning in debt, smiling and lying to everyone? An email notification popped up just as I was about to close my laptop. My credit monitoring service, new inquiry alert. Someone had run my credit report. The inquiry came from a mortgage company with Lauren listed as the requesting party. She'd used my social security number, information she'd had since helping me with my first apartment application years ago. Below that, another alert. A mortgage application had been started in my name, status incomplete. But there it was. My information, my credit, my future being gambled without my consent. I stared at the screen, feeling something harden inside my chest. They hadn't just asked for help. They'd already tried to steal it. The evidence folder on my desktop grew as I downloaded everything. Come Sunday, I'd be ready. What I didn't know was how far they'd go when cornered. Saturday morning arrived with a deceptive calm. I'd barely slept, my mind churning through the discoveries of the night before. The coffee maker gurgled as I spread printed documents across my tiny dining table. Liens, lawsuits, foreclosure, notices the unauthorized credit inquiry. My phone rang. Mom. "Jacqueline, what should I make for dinner tomorrow?" I was thinking chicken parmesan, Marcus's favorite. Of course it was Marcus's favorite. Everything in our family seemed to revolve around keeping Lauren and Marcus happy. "Mom, we need to talk about something serious. If this is about the co-signing, your father and I have discussed it. We think you're being unnecessarily difficult." I rubbed my temple, feeling a headache building. "It's more than that. I've discovered some things about their finances." "Stop right there." Mom's voice turned sharp. "I don't want to hear you spreading gossip about your sister. Whatever you think you found, I'm sure there's an explanation." The line went dead. She'd actually hung up on me. I spent the morning organizing my evidence, creating a clear timeline. The pattern was devastating. Marcus and Lauren had been living beyond their means for years, using increasingly desperate measures to maintain their facade. The first lawsuit dated back 3 years. A young couple claiming Marcus had hidden major foundation issues when selling them a house. They'd won a judgment of $80,000. Marcus had declared bankruptcy to avoid paying. The second lawsuit was more recent, an elderly widow alleging Marcus had convinced her to sell her home far below market value, promising to find her a perfect retirement community that never materialized. But the real shock came when I cross-referenced business records. Marcus didn't work for a premier real estate firm anymore. He'd been terminated 18 months ago. His current office was a virtual address, a mailbox in a strip mall. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Your sister says you're co-signing tomorrow. Smart choice. Would hate for this to get messy. T." My blood ran cold. Who was T? What kind of people had they involved in this? I called my friend from college who worked in banking. "Sarah, hypothetically, if someone took out a loan with a co-signer and defaulted, what happens?" "The co-signer becomes fully responsible," she said immediately. "The bank will come after their assets, wages, everything. Why, you're not thinking of co-signing something, are you?" "No, but can you look up some mortgage applications for me? I think someone may have started one with my information." Sarah's tone shifted to concern. "That's fraud, Jacqueline. If someone's using your information without consent, you need to file a police report immediately." After we hung up, I sat in my quiet apartment surrounded by evidence of my sister's deception. The Lauren I thought I knew, successful, confident, protective older sister, had never really existed. She'd been playing a role and I'd been too blinded by childhood memories to see it. Another text from the unknown number, "TikTok. Your sister owes people who don't accept excuses." I screenshot that too, adding it to my growing file. Whatever Lauren and Marcus had gotten into, they were trying to drag me down with them. That evening, I did something I'd never done before. I called a lawyer. "Based on what you're describing," Attorney Patricia Coleman said after reviewing my summary, "you're looking at attempted fraud, identity theft, and possibly extortion with these threatening texts. Do not under any circumstances sign anything, and consider getting a restraining order." Against my own sister. "Your sister who's already committed fraud by accessing your credit without authorization. Family members commit more financial crimes against relatives than strangers do. They count on emotional manipulation to avoid consequences." Her words echoed as I prepared for Sunday dinner. I'd switched my phone to record, placed all my documents in a folder in my car. Every instinct screamed to avoid the confrontation, but running would only delay the inevitable. Sunday arrived overcast and humid, the air thick with impending storm. Pathetic fallacy, my high school English teacher would have called it. Nature reflecting the human drama about to unfold. I parked behind Marcus's BMW, the one I now knew he couldn't afford. Through the dining room window, I could see them all gathered laughing at something. The perfect family tableau built on lies. My evidence folder felt heavy as I walked to the door. Inside were 3 years of deception, proof that my sister had been lying to everyone who loved her. But worse than the lies was what she'd tried to do to me. Use my trust, my credit, my future as a lifeline for her sinking ship. I raised my hand to knock, then paused. Through the window, I watched Lauren throw her head back in laughter, diamond earrings catching the light. Marcus had his arm around her, playing the successful husband. My parents gazed at them with such pride. In a few minutes, I would shatter that illusion. Part of me wanted to turn around, pretend I'd never learned the truth. But the threatening texts on my phone and the fraudulent credit inquiry made that impossible. They'd forced my hand by trying to steal what they couldn't manipulate from me. Thunder rumbled in the distance as I finally knocked, the last normal moment before everything changed. Lauren answered the door, her smile bright and false as her diamonds. "There you are, we were starting to worry. Come in, come in. Marcus has the papers all ready for after dinner." I stepped inside, gripping my folder tighter. The house smelled like garlic and rosemary from Mom's cooking. Dad called out a greeting from the living room where he and Marcus were watching golf. "Actually," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "I think we should discuss those papers now. I have some questions about the property." Lauren's smile flickered but held. Of course, Marcus Honey Jacqueline wants to go over the investment details. Marcus appeared, golf still playing behind him. His salesman's smile was perfectly in place, but I noticed tension in his shoulders. Great, I've got everything set up in the office. Just need your signature and we can move forward with this amazing opportunity. First, I'd like to see the property details, your current mortgage statements, and the loan terms, I said, pulling out my phone to show I meant business. That's all standard stuff, Marcus said, his smile finally slipping. Nothing you need to worry about. If it's standard, then showing me shouldn't be a problem. Lauren stepped closer, lowering her voice. Why are you being like this? We're family. Which is exactly why I need to see everything. I met her gaze steadily. Unless there's something you're hiding. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Mom appeared in the doorway, dish towel in hand. Everything okay? Fine, Mom, Lauren said quickly. Jacqueline just has some questions. Marcus will answer everything, won't you, honey? Marcus's jaw worked like he was chewing glass. Of course. Let's go to the office. I followed them down the hallway, my heart pounding. Their home office was all dark wood and leather designed to impress. Marcus gestured to papers spread across the desk. The mortgage application with my name already filled in as co-signer. See, everything's in order. Just need your signature here, here, and here. I set my folder on the desk. Before I sign anything, let's discuss why you were terminated from Coldwell Banker 18 months ago. The silence was deafening. Lauren's face went white, then red. Marcus's mask finally cracked completely. How dare you investigate us? Lauren hissed. How dare you access my credit report without permission? I countered. That's fraud, Lauren. So is starting a mortgage application in my name. We didn't, that's not, Marcus stammered. I pulled out the printed evidence. 3 liens against your business, 2 lawsuits for fraud. Your house is in pre-foreclosure. You're not buying an investment property. You're trying to save yourselves from bankruptcy. Lauren sank into a chair. You don't understand. We just hit a rough patch. The market didn't forge my signature. The market didn't send me threatening texts from someone named T. Marcus's face went gray. How do you know about Tony? So T is Tony, and who exactly is Tony? Nobody, Lauren said quickly, too quickly. Just a private lender. A loan shark, I said flatly. You borrowed from a loan shark. Mom's gasp from the doorway made us all turn. She and Dad stood there, Dad's face darkening with each word. Lauren Michelle. Dad's voice was deadly quiet. What have you done? We had no choice, Lauren burst out. The banks wouldn't extend our credit. We just needed bridge money until this deal. There is no deal, I said. This is all a house of cards and you're trying to make me the foundation. I spread out all my evidence, every lien, every lawsuit, every default notice. My family crowded around the desk, the truth laid bare in black and white. $600,000. Dad read, his voice hollow. You were going to make Jacqueline responsible for $600,000. She wouldn't actually pay anything, Marcus protested. We just needed her credit score to qualify. And when you defaulted, I asked, when you couldn't make payments just like you can't now, what happens to me then? That wouldn't happen, Lauren insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. Like it didn't happen to the elderly woman you defrauded or the couple with the foundation problems. Those lawsuits were dismissed, Marcus said. After you declared bankruptcy to avoid paying, I corrected. I have all the court documents. Thunder cracked overhead and rain began pelting the windows. The storm had arrived. Lauren looked at our parents, tears forming. We're desperate. If we lose the house, we lose everything. I'm pregnant. Everyone froze. Mom's hand flew to her heart. Pregnant. 4 months, Lauren whispered, hand on her belly. We've been trying for so long, and now we might be homeless. The manipulation was breathtaking. Even knowing everything I knew, I felt the pull of sympathy. Marcus moved to Lauren's side, the united front. You see, he said, this is about family, about our baby. How can you turn your back on your nephew or niece? But I'd learned to recognize their patterns now. The perfectly timed revelation, the emotional manipulation, the guilt. If you're really pregnant, I said slowly, then you need stability, real stability, not a house of cards built on fraud and lies. How can you be so cold? Lauren cried. I'm your sister. My sister who committed identity theft. My sister who tried to forge my signature. My sister who was ready to destroy my financial future to save yourself. Dad stepped forward. Everyone calm down. Lauren, is this true? All of it. She couldn't meet his eyes. That was answer enough. And this Tony person, Dad continued, how much do you owe him? Marcus and Lauren exchanged a look. $50,000, Marcus admitted. But we told him Jacqueline was co-signing. He's expecting... You told a loan shark I was your guarantor. My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. Without my knowledge or consent, we knew you'd come through, Lauren said. You always do. You're the good one. The easy mark, you mean. Lightning flashed, illuminating everyone's faces in harsh relief. In that moment, I saw clearly Lauren's desperation, Marcus's calculation, my parents' dawning horror at what their golden child had become. I won't sign, I said firmly. Not the mortgage, not anything. And if you've put my name on any documents, I'll file fraud charges. Marcus's face twisted into something ugly. You have no idea what you're doing. Tony doesn't accept no for an answer. He's expecting this deal to go through. Then you'll have to tell Tony the truth, that you lied about having a co-signer. It's not that simple. Marcus slammed his hand on the desk, papers scattered. These people don't just walk away. Should have thought of that before you borrowed from them, Dad said. His military bearing had returned, protective instincts engaged. Jacqueline, do you have somewhere safe to stay tonight? Dad, I'll be fine. Answer the question. My apartment has good security. You'll stay with us tonight, Mom decided. Lauren, Marcus, I think you should leave. Mom, Lauren protested. You're taking her side. There are no sides, Mom said sadly. There's just the truth. And the truth is you tried to defraud your sister. You need help, Lauren, professional help. Marcus stood, pulling Lauren up. This is a mistake. You're making a huge mistake. The only mistake, I said, was trusting you. They gathered their things in tense silence. At the door, Lauren turned back. I hope you can live with yourself when we're on the street. I hope you can live with yourself knowing you tried to put me there instead, I replied. The door slammed behind them. Mom immediately locked it, then pulled me into a hug. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I should have seen it. Should have protected you. Dad was already on the phone with his lawyer friend. Yes, tonight if possible. My daughter's been threatened. Through the window, I watched Marcus's BMW peel out tires squealing. The storm raged overhead, but inside, for the first time in weeks, I felt safe. What I didn't know was that Marcus would return within the hour, and this time he wouldn't bother with manipulation. The real storm was just beginning. The hour after Lauren and Marcus left felt surreal. Mom mechanically cleaned up the untouched dinner while Dad made phone calls to lawyer friends and security companies. I sat at the kitchen table, exhausted but wired adrenaline still coursing through my system. I've arranged for a security system installation tomorrow, Dad announced. And Jim Patterson, remember him from the VFW? He's a lawyer now. He can see you Monday morning about the identity theft. Mom set a cup of tea in front of me with shaking hands. I keep thinking about all the signs we missed, the expensive gifts when they were supposedly saving for a house, the vacations they couldn't afford. They were good at hiding it, I said. I'm a nurse trained to spot deception in abuse cases, and I missed it too. Thunder rattled the windows. The storm had intensified, rain coming down in sheets. Dad checked the locks again, a habit from his military days that had never fully faded. Maybe we should call the police now, Mom suggested. Those texts you received. And tell them that my sister's husband borrowed money from sketchy people. I shook my head. Without an actual threat. The doorbell cut through my words. We all froze. Stay here, Dad commanded, moving toward the door with the careful steps of someone who'd been in dangerous situations before. Through the rain-streaked window, I could see Marcus's BMW back in the driveway. My stomach dropped. "Don't open it," Mom whispered. But Dad was already checking the peephole. "It's just Marcus, alone." "I'll handle this," I said, standing. Something in my gut told me this confrontation was inevitable. "Absolutely not," Dad said. "He's here for me. Let me talk to him. You stay close." Before my parents could protest further, I opened the door. Marcus stood on the porch, rain-soaked and desperate. His usually perfect hair hung limp, his expensive shirt clinging to his frame. "We need to talk," he said, "alone. Anything you have to say can be said right here." His jaw clenched. "You don't understand what you've done. These people I owe, they don't accept excuses. I told them you were signing tomorrow. That's your problem, not mine." "It's about to be your problem." His composure cracked completely. "They know where you work, where you live. You think your building's security will stop them." Dad stepped into view. "Are you threatening my daughter?" "I'm trying to protect her." Marcus ran his hands through his wet hair. "If this deal doesn't go through, they'll come after all of us. Lauren, too. You want your pregnant sister hurt because you couldn't sign a few papers." "Is she even pregnant?" I asked bluntly. "Or is that another manipulation?" The question seemed to break something in him. "Of course she's pregnant 4 months. We've been trying for years, spent everything on fertility treatments. Do you know what that does to a person? To a marriage? So you decided to commit fraud. We decided to survive." He stepped closer, and I smelled alcohol on his breath. "You with your stable job and your simple life. You have no idea what it's like to have everyone expect perfection. Lauren's family looking at us like we're success stories while we're drowning. That's not my fault. No, you don't think your parents comparing us helped drive her to this perfect Jacqueline, the nurse saving lives. Selfless Jacqueline who doesn't care about money. Saint Jacqueline who judges the rest of us mere mortals." His words stung because there was a grain of truth in them. Had my choice of career made Lauren feel like she had to achieve financial success to matter? "Don't let him manipulate you," Dad warned. Marcus laughed bitterly. "Manipulate? I'm trying to save my family. Sign the papers, Jacqueline. Please, I'll pay you back every penny. With what money, you're already in foreclosure. I have deals in the pipeline, big ones. I just need time." "More lies," I said. "You don't even have a real office anymore." His face darkened. "You self-righteous. You know what, I tried being nice." He pulled out his phone. "One call to Tony and this becomes his problem to solve. You want that on your conscience?" "You're drunk," Dad said. "Leave now or I'm calling the police." Marcus swayed slightly, rain and alcohol making him unsteady. "Police. You think they care about family disputes by the time they arrive?" He lunged forward, suddenly trying to push past me into the house. Dad reacted instantly, decades of military training kicking in. He grabbed Marcus's arm, twisting it behind his back in one smooth motion. "Big mistake," Dad growled. Marcus struggled, cursing. "Get off me! This is assault!" "You attempted to force entry into my home," Dad said calmly. "I'm making a citizen's arrest. Jacqueline, call 911. I reached for my phone, but Marcus broke free with desperate strength. He spun around, wild-eyed, and grabbed my wrist. "Just sign the damn papers." "Let go." I tried to pull away, but his grip tightened painfully. Everything happened fast then. Dad moved to intervene. Marcus shoved him hard, sending my 70-year-old father stumbling backward. Mom screamed, and something in me snapped. All the weeks of manipulation, the threats, the lies, it crystallized into pure anger. I wrenched my arm free and shoved Marcus back onto the porch. "Enough, you want to destroy your life, fine, but you're not taking me down with you." He stood there in the rain chest, heaving. "You'll regret this. When Tony comes for his money, when Lauren loses the baby from stress, when your parents realize they raised a selfish daughter who wouldn't help family, you'll regret this." "The only thing I regret," I said, "is not seeing who you really were sooner." I slammed the door and locked it. Through the window, I watched Marcus stumble to his car. He sat there for a long moment before finally driving away, tires spinning on the wet pavement. "Is everyone okay?" I asked, helping Dad to a chair. "I'm fine," he said, though he was rubbing his shoulder. "Your mother?" Mom stood frozen by the wall, tears streaming. "This can't be happening. This can't be our life." I hugged her tight. "It's going to be okay." "Is it?" She pulled back to look at me. "He's right about one thing. These people he owes, what if they come after you?" "Then we handle it," Dad said firmly, "but Jacqueline's not destroying her future because Marcus made bad choices." My phone buzzed. "Lauren, what did you do? Marcus came home drunk and hysterical. You've ruined everything. I hate you." Then another text from the unknown number. "Your brother-in-law says there's a problem with our arrangement. Let's discuss this in person. Tony." My hands shook as I showed Dad the message. "That's it," he said. "We're calling the police now." As I dialed, I thought about how quickly life could change. 3 weeks ago, my biggest worry was keeping my succulent alive. Now I was calling the police about loan sharks and family members who'd become strangers. The operator answered. 911, what's your emergency?" "I need to report extortion and assault threats." I began, my voice steadier than I felt. Outside, the storm raged on, but it was nothing compared to what was coming. Because in less than 24 hours, Marcus would make good on his threats, and the attack would be more vicious than anything I could have imagined. The police took our statements with professional detachment. Officer Rodriguez, a woman about my age with kind eyes, made careful notes while her partner photographed the bruises already forming on my wrist from Marcus's grip. "This Tony person who's been texting you," she said, "do you have any other information about him?" "Just the texts and what Marcus said. He owes him $50,000. "Loan sharking is a federal crime," Officer Rodriguez explained. "We'll need to involve the FBI if this escalates. For now, we'll file a report and increase patrols around your apartment and parents' home." After they left, none of us could sleep. We sat in the living room, the Weather Channel playing mutely as the storm continued outside. Around 3 in the morning, my phone rang. Lauren. "Don't hang up," she said immediately. Her voice was different, cold, calculated. "We need to meet tomorrow, just you and me." "After what happened tonight, no." "You don't understand what you've started. Tony went to our house. Marcus had to promise him something to make him leave." My blood chilled. "What did he promise?" "You. He promised you'd sign by Monday, or..." She paused. "Or they'd collect from you directly." "That's kidnapping, extortion. The police won't do anything until something actually happens, and by then..." She let the threat hang. "Meet me at Dock Street Coffee at noon. Public place. Just to talk." "Why should I trust you?" "Because despite everything, I'm still your sister, and I'm trying to save your life." She hung up before I could respond. I stared at the phone, weighing my options. Everything screamed trap, but the alternative was waiting for Tony to make his move. "I'm going with you," Dad said. He'd heard everything. She said alone. I don't care what she said. We argued until dawn, finally compromising. He'd wait in his car outside watching. One signal from me and he'd intervene. Noon came too quickly. Dock Street Coffee was busy with the Sunday lunch crowd. Families with strollers, college students with laptops, the normal world continuing while mine imploded. Lauren sat in a corner booth, sunglasses on, despite being indoors. When she removed them, I gasped. Her left eye was swollen, nearly shut, purple and green bruising spreading across her cheekbone. "Marcus," I whispered, sliding into the opposite seat. She nodded once curtly. "After the police left your parents, he blamed me for involving you, said I should have convinced you better. Lauren, you need to leave him. File charges." "With what money, where would I go?" She laughed bitterly. "You think shelters take women who committed fraud, who have loan sharks after them. So your solution is to throw me to the wolves." "My solution was for you to sign the papers like families should." Her good eye blazed with anger. "But you had to be noble, had to be right." "I had to protect myself." From what we would have made the payments, how you're already broke. I'm pregnant. The words exploded from her. Several nearby customers looked over. She lowered her voice. 4 months pregnant after 5 years of trying 3 miscarriages and more money than you can imagine spent on treatments. This baby is everything to us. Her hand went to her stomach protectively. Even through my anger, I felt a stab of sympathy. If that's true, then you need to think about the baby's future. What kind of life will it have with parents in prison? Prison. She scoffed. You think rich people go to prison for financial crimes? Marcus's parents will hire lawyers. We'll get probation at worst. His parents who cut him off 18 months ago. Her face fell. How did you... I did my homework. They know about his scams, don't they? That's why they stopped funding your lifestyle. They're complicated people. But when they find out about the baby... She trailed off and I realized she was banking on a grandchild softening them. Lauren, listen to me. You need to go to the police. Tell them about Tony, about the threats. Get into witness protection if necessary. You watch too much TV. She pulled out her phone, showed me a photo that made my stomach lurch. It was my apartment building taken from across the street, a red circle drawn around my window. This was sent to Marcus this morning. Tony knows where you live. Then I'll move. Where? How long you think men like Tony just forget? She leaned forward. Sign the papers, Jacqueline. Please. I'll make sure Marcus pays everything. You'll never hear from us again after this. You can't guarantee that. I can try. Trying isn't good enough when it's my future on the line. Her face hardened. Then you've made your choice, and we've made ours. What does that mean? She stood pulling on her sunglasses. Marcus already put your name down as guarantor with Tony. Showed him forged documents saying you agreed. If you don't make it official by tomorrow night, Tony will come to collect his investment. From you. You're bluffing. Am I? She adjusted her purse and I caught a glimpse of papers inside. Legal documents with my name visible. We already practiced your signature. Marcus got good at it. Good enough to fool Tony. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too hot. You forged my signature on loan documents with a criminal... We did what we had to do. She moved to leave, then paused. You know what the saddest part is? If you'd just helped us from the beginning, none of this would have happened. The assault, the threats, Tony, all of it could have been avoided. You're really going to blame me for your crimes. I'm going to blame you for not being a sister when I needed one. Her voice cracked slightly. Do you remember when we were kids? You were 7, I was 12. You fell off your bike and scraped your knee so badly. I carried you 6 blocks home, ruined my favorite jeans from the blood. You cried the whole way, but you trusted me to get you safe. The memory hit unexpectedly hard. I did remember. Her arms around me, her voice promising everything would be okay. That was before you decided money mattered more than family, I said quietly. Money is family. She slammed her hand on the table. How do you think I'll feed my baby, pay for doctors? Give it any kind of life, love doesn't pay rent, Jacqueline. It doesn't buy formula or diapers or health insurance. There are programs, welfare food stamps. That's your solution. She laughed harshly. I've watched Mom clip coupons for 30 years, watched Dad check restaurant prices before ordering. That's not the life I wanted. So you chose crime instead? I chose survival, and now you're choosing to let your nephew or niece suffer for your principles. She turned to leave. Desperation made me grab her arm. Lauren, wait. What if I helped another way smaller loan payment plan? For a moment, her mask slipped. I saw my sister again, scared, desperate, drowning. Then Marcus appeared in the coffee shop doorway and her walls slammed back up. Too late, she whispered. He's already here. Marcus looked terrible. Unshaven clothes, wrinkled eyes, bloodshot. But what scared me was the calm that had replaced last night's hysteria. The calm of someone who'd made a decision. Jacqueline. He nodded politely as if we were casual acquaintances. Thank you for meeting with Lauren. Marcus, we need to talk about... No more talking. He pulled out an envelope, set it on the table. Sign these or don't, but understand the consequences either way. Is that a threat? It's reality. Tony expects his money by tomorrow night, either from the property deal we promised or, he shrugged, from whatever assets he can extract from you. You mean he'll hurt me? I mean he'll collect, however he needs to. Dad appeared, then having seen Marcus arrive. Everything okay here? Fine, Marcus said smoothly. Just leaving. Jacqueline has 24 hours to decide. After that, he put his arm around Lauren. It's out of our hands. They left together, Lauren not looking back. Dad immediately called the police to update them on the threats. I sat staring at the envelope, afraid to open it, but knowing I had to. Inside were mortgage documents, loan agreements, and a personal guarantee making me responsible for $800,000. Not the $600,000 they'd originally mentioned. The extra $200,000, I realized, was likely Tony's loan, plus interest. We're going to the FBI, Dad decided. This is beyond local police. But even as we made plans called lawyers took precautions, I knew we were playing catch-up. Marcus and Lauren had been planning this for months. We had 24 hours. That night, I stayed at my parents' again. We ordered Chinese food no one ate, jumped at every car passing outside. Mom kept checking on me, bringing tea, extra blankets, anything to feel useful. Maybe I should just sign, I said around midnight. If it keeps everyone safe. No, Dad said firmly. That's not how you deal with extortion. You can't negotiate with people who've already shown they'll hurt you. But as I lay in my childhood bed staring at glow-in-the-dark stars I'd put up in middle school, I wondered if principles were worth dying for. Lauren was right about one thing. Love didn't pay bills. But was survival worth becoming someone you couldn't face in the mirror? My phone buzzed, another unknown number. Tick-tock, little nurse. Marcus says you're being stubborn. I don't like stubborn. Makes my job harder. T. I didn't sleep. Just waited for dawn for the FBI office to open for some miracle that would make this nightmare end. What I didn't expect was for the nightmare to come to me first. Because Monday afternoon, when I thought I had a few hours left to decide, Marcus would prove that 24 hours had been a generous estimate. He'd already decided what would happen if I didn't sign. And Lauren would stand by and watch. Monday arrived with false normalcy. Birds chirped outside my parents' guest room window. The coffee maker gurgled downstairs. If not for the FBI appointment at 10 and the deadline hanging over my head, it could have been any other day. I'd called in sick to work, my first unscheduled absence in 2 years. My supervisor, Sharon, had been understanding when I'd vaguely mentioned family emergency, but I heard the concern in her voice. Jacqueline, if you need anything, if someone's hurting you, I'm handling it, I'd assured her, touched by her instinctive nurse's recognition that something was seriously wrong. Dad drove me to the FBI office in downtown Philadelphia. The federal building felt imposing with its concrete walls and metal detectors. Agent Sarah Chen, no relation to my brother-in-law, she assured me with dry humor, took detailed notes as I laid out everything. The forged signatures, the threats, Tony's involvement. We've been watching Anthony Tony Torino for years, she revealed. He operates out of South Philly, runs money through construction companies. Your brother-in-law borrowing from him shows spectacular poor judgment. Can you arrest him, Tony? I mean, we need more evidence. Your testimony helps, but... She hesitated. These cases take time. Months, sometimes years. I have until tonight. We can offer protective custody. For how long I have a job, a life. Agent Chen's expression was sympathetic but firm. Your life won't matter much if Torino decides to make an example of you. We left with more questions than answers. The FBI would investigate, but investigations took time I didn't have. They suggested I vary my routine, stay with friends, consider leaving town temporarily. Running away, I muttered in the car. That's their solution. Strategic retreat, Dad corrected. Nothing wrong with living to fight another day. It was already 2 in the afternoon. The deadline loomed, but I needed things from my apartment. Clothes, medications, important documents. Against Dad's protests, I insisted we stop there. 5 minutes, I promised. In and out. The apartment building looked normal. Residents, walking dogs, maintenance, watering the lobby plants, security guard at the desk who knew me by name. "Hey, Mike," I waved, trying to appear casual. "Jacqueline feeling better? You look tired." "Just need to grab some things. My dad's with me." Mike buzzed us through with his usual friendly smile. The elevator ride felt endless. Dad insisted on going first down the hallway, checking corners like he was back in Vietnam. My apartment door stood slightly open. We both froze. I distinctly remembered locking it when I'd left Saturday morning. "Back to the elevator," Dad whispered. "Now," but I heard something inside, crying, a woman crying. "Lauren." I called out against Dad's frantic gestures to stay quiet. "Jacqueline." Her voice was muffled, pained. "Help me, please." Every instinct screamed trap, but I couldn't ignore my sister's distress. I pushed the door wider. Lauren sat on my living room floor, holding her stomach, blood on her jeans. Her face was even more bruised than yesterday, lips split, one arm hanging strangely. "The baby," she gasped. "I think I'm losing the baby." I rushed forward, nurse training overriding caution. "How long have you been bleeding? Are you having contractions?" He pushed me down the stairs. Tears mixed with blood from her nose. "Said it was my fault you wouldn't sign. My fault for not controlling you better. We need to get you to the hospital." The door slammed shut behind us. Marcus stepped out from behind it, and my blood turned to ice. He looked completely unhinged, pupils dilated, movements jerky, a baseball bat in his hand. "Family reunion," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "How touching." Dad moved between us. "Put the bat down, son." "I'm not your son." Marcus swung the bat experimentally. "Your daughter made sure of that when she destroyed my life." "Marcus, please," Lauren whimpered. "You promised no weapons." "Shut up," he whirled on her. "You said she'd come if you were hurt. Well, you were right. Good job." The full horror hit me. "You threw your pregnant wife down the stairs as bait." "She's not pregnant," Marcus said casually. "Never was. Found the fake ultrasound website in her browser history last night. Another lie. But hey, what's one more?" Lauren's sobs intensified. The blood was real, though. That much my medical training confirmed. "She still needs medical attention," I said carefully. "Let me help her." "After you sign." He pulled papers from his jacket. "Right here, right now. Then everyone gets what they need." "Don't do it," Dad warned. Marcus's face darkened. "Old man, you've interfered enough." The swing came fast. Dad tried to dodge, but the bat caught his shoulder, spinning him into the wall. He went down hard. "Dad," I started toward him, but Marcus blocked me. "Sign the papers." Okay, I'll sign. Just let me check on him." Papers first. My hands shook as I took the documents. $800,000 of debt with my name on it. My future destroyed with a pen stroke. But Dad was groaning on the floor, possibly concussed, and Lauren was still bleeding. I started to sign, then stopped. "This won't end here. You know that, right? Tony will want more. There's always more." "Not my problem once you sign." "It'll always be your problem. You think men like Tony just walk away satisfied." "Sign." He raised the bat again. In that moment, I made a decision that would haunt me. I threw the papers in his face and lunged for my kitchen. Marcus's roar of rage followed me. I heard the bat whistle past my ear, slamming into the wall. Plaster exploded. I grabbed the first thing I could reach, a knife from the block on my counter. "Back off." I held it between us, my hand surprisingly steady. He laughed. "You won't use that, not sweet, helpful Jacqueline." "Try me." We faced off in my tiny kitchen. Behind him, I could see Dad struggling to sit up. Lauren had crawled toward the door, leaving a blood trail on my carpet. "You know what your problem is," Marcus said, still holding the bat. "You think you're better than us, the noble nurse, the good daughter, but you're just scared. Scared to take risks, to want more." "I want plenty, just not at the cost of my soul." your soul." He laughed bitterly. "I gave up my soul the day I married into your family. Do you know what it's like having your parents look at me like I'm never good enough? Their precious Lauren slumming with a working-class guy. So you decided to prove them right by becoming a criminal." His face contorted. "I decided to become rich, whatever it took." He feinted left, then went right. I slashed with the knife, catching his sleeve, drawing blood. He howled and swung the bat. I tried to dodge, but there wasn't enough room. The bat connected with my shoulder. Blinding pain shot down my arm as I heard something crack and separate. The knife flew from my nerveless fingers. I screamed, falling backward into the counter. Marcus stood over me, bat raised for another blow. Should have just signed. That's when Dad tackled him from behind. 70 years old with a probable concussion, but still fighting. They went down in a tangle of limbs, the bat rolling away. "Run!" Dad yelled. But I couldn't run, couldn't even stand. My shoulder was dislocated, possibly broken. Every movement sent waves of agony through me. Marcus threw Dad off with younger strength and scrambled for the bat. Dad grabbed his ankle, buying me precious seconds. I pulled myself up, using my good arm, stumbling toward the door. Lauren lay in front of it, semi-conscious. "Move," I gasped. She looked up at me with glazed eyes. "You should have just signed the mortgage." The words hit harder than the bat. Even now, bleeding on my floor, she blamed me. Marcus broke free from Dad and came at me again. This time, his swing connected with my ribs. I felt them crack breath, leaving in a whoosh. The second hit caught my face, blood filling my mouth and nose. I went down hard, the world spinning. Through blurred vision, I saw Dad trying to get up, saw Marcus standing over me with the bat raised one final time. "Stop," Lauren's voice stronger now. "You'll kill her." So Marcus was beyond reason. She killed us first. But the distraction was enough. I grabbed his ankle and pulled with desperate strength. Off balance, he stumbled. The bat came down, missing me by inches, embedding in the floor. Police sirens wailed outside. Someone, probably Mike from the security desk, had called them. Marcus's face went white. "You stupid, this isn't over!" He ran for the door, shoving past Lauren. She reached for him weakly. "Don't leave me." But he was gone, footsteps pounding down the hallway. I lay on my floor, blood pooling beneath my face, every breath agony. My shoulder hung at an impossible angle. Dad crawled over his hands, gentle on my head. "Stay with me, baby girl, help's coming." Lauren dragged herself closer. "Jacqueline, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." I tried to speak, but only blood came out. The room kept tilting. "Should have signed," she whispered again, and I couldn't tell if it was regret or continued blame. The last thing I remembered was Dad's voice, urgent and scared. "She's losing consciousness. Hurry." Then darkness took me, but not before one final thought: I needed to get to my parents' house. They needed to know what happened. I didn't know if I'd make it. Consciousness returned in fragments. Pain first, searing, overwhelming. Then sounds. Dad's voice arguing with someone, sirens getting closer. I forced my eyes open to find chaos in my apartment. "Don't move," Dad commanded, his hand steady on my forehead. "Paramedics are almost here." Lauren had pulled herself against the wall, pressing kitchen towels between her legs to stem the bleeding. Her eyes met mine, hollow with shock. "He's going to kill us," she whispered. "When he realizes the police are involved, he'll come back to finish it." I tried to respond, but my mouth was full of blood. Spitting it out sent lightning through my ribs. "Need to go," I managed. "Parents' house, tell Mom." "You're not going anywhere." Dad started, but I gripped his hand with desperate strength. "Recording." I fumbled for my phone with my good hand. In my pocket, everything's recorded. His eyes widened as he carefully extracted my phone. In my terror, I'd forgotten I'd started recording when I entered the apartment, a habit from documenting evidence. The entire attack was captured. "Holy God," Dad breathed, seeing the recording still running. "This is evidence. This proves everything." Footsteps thundered in the hallway. Not paramedics. Too heavy, too fast. Marcus. "He's coming back." Lauren whimpered. Adrenaline flooded my system. Using the counter, I hauled myself upright despite the agony. My right arm hung useless shoulder clearly separated. Blood ran from my nose and mouth, but I was vertical. Back door, I gasped. Service elevator. Dad didn't argue. He pulled Lauren to her feet, supporting her weight. I stumbled behind them, leaving bloody handprints on the walls. My apartment had 2 exits, a luxury I'd paid extra for never imagining I'd need it for escape. The main door burst open just as we reached the kitchen's back exit. Marcus's voice roared behind us, incoherent with rage. The service hallway was narrow, meant for maintenance. We half ran, half fell toward the elevator. Lauren moaned with each step, leaving a trail of blood. My vision kept graying at the edges. Almost there, Dad encouraged. The elevator doors were closing when Marcus appeared at the hallway's end. Our eyes met for one terrifying moment before the doors shut completely. Parking garage, I mumbled. My car. You can't drive like this. You drive. Just need to get home to Mom. The garage was eerily quiet. Dad bundled us into my Honda, Lauren in back, me slumped in the passenger seat. He peeled out just as Marcus burst from the stairwell. Call 911, Dad ordered, but I was already dialing with shaking fingers. This is Jacqueline Morris. My brother-in-law just attacked us at 1547 Spring Garden Street, apartment 4B. He's still in the building, armed and dangerous. There's evidence. I gave them what details I could before the phone slipped from my numb fingers. Dad navigated traffic while I fought to stay conscious. Every bump sent fresh agony through my ribs. Why Mom's house? Dad asked. The hospital? Need to tell her in person. What happened? Before versions change. I knew Lauren. Even now, she'd find a way to minimize excuse rewrite history. Mom needed the truth while it was still raw, still undeniable. The 20-minute drive felt eternal. Lauren had gone quiet in the back seat and I couldn't turn to check on her. My shoulders screamed with every breath. Stay awake, Dad commanded whenever my eyes drifted shut. Tell me about work, your patients. So I rambled about the pediatric ward, about little Timmy with leukemia, who'd finally gone into remission, about the new NICU equipment we'd fundraised for. Anything to keep conscious. We pulled into my parents' driveway as the sun began setting. Had it really only been a few hours since the FBI meeting? It felt like days. Mom must have been watching because she flew out the front door. The scream that tore from her when she saw me made my heart break. Oh my God, what happened? Marcus, Dad said simply. Help me get them inside. But I couldn't make it. My legs gave out on the front walkway. I went down hard on my knees, jarring every injury. The pain was extraordinary. Hospital, Mom cried. We need... No. I gripped her hand. Listen first, please, while I can still talk. So there on my parents' front lawn, where I'd played as a child, I told my mother the truth. Marcus's attack, Lauren's betrayal, the baseball bat, the fake pregnancy used as bait. Every ugly detail poured out with my blood onto the grass. Mom's face cycled through disbelief, horror, rage. When I showed her the recording on my phone, she actually recoiled from the violence captured there. Lauren. She looked at her eldest daughter, who'd collapsed against Dad. You were part of this. I didn't know I just wanted Jacqueline to come, to talk. Lauren's voice was weak, but the manipulation was still there. I'm hurt too, Mom. I might be miscarrying. You're not pregnant. The words tore from me. Marcus said so, checked your browser history, fake ultrasound sites. The last bit of color drained from Lauren's face. That's not... I was pregnant. I lost it last month, but I couldn't tell Marcus. He was already so stressed. Another lie, the truth. Did it matter anymore? Inside, Dad decided, before neighbors call police. They half carried me to the door. My shoulder was past agony now, nerves going numb. Blood dripped steadily from my nose onto my parents' pristine walkway. At the threshold, my legs gave out completely. The world tilted sideways. I can't, I whispered. I'm sorry, Mom, I can't. She knelt beside me, tears streaming. It's okay, baby. You're home. You're safe. But we weren't safe. Marcus was still out there, probably fleeing the police, but certainly planning his next move. Tony's deadline hadn't been met. The danger was just beginning. I tried to say all this, but words wouldn't come. The edges of my vision went dark. "She's going into shock," Dad said urgently. "Call 911 now." Mom ran for the phone while Dad elevated my legs, military medical training kicking in. Lauren crawled closer, reaching for my hand with bloody fingers. "I'm sorry," she kept repeating. "I'm so sorry." But sorry didn't fix my shoulder. Sorry didn't unbreak my ribs or stop the blood flowing from my face. Sorry didn't undo the moment she'd stood by while her husband beat me with a bat. As consciousness slipped away, I heard sirens approaching. Police or ambulance, I couldn't tell. Maybe both. "Jacqueline, stay with us," Mom's voice desperate and afraid. But I was falling, tumbling into darkness where the pain couldn't follow. My last coherent thought was that I'd made it home. I told the truth. Whatever happened next, at least Mom knew. Everything went black just as the sirens reached our street. I'd collapsed on my parents' doorstep, begging for help, just like I'd imagined in those terrifying minutes after the attack. Except this time, help might not come fast enough. The world swam back into focus in fragments. Red and blue lights painted the ceiling, voices urgent and professional. Someone was counting. 1, 2, 3, lift. I was moving, floating. No, being carried. The stretcher rolled across my parents' doorstep where I'd collapsed moments or hours ago. Time had become elastic, meaningless. "Jacqueline, can you hear me?" A paramedic's face appeared above me, young and serious. "Squeeze my hand if you can hear me." I tried, but my body felt disconnected, operating on a delay. Finally, my fingers twitched against his. "Good. You're doing great. We're taking you to Jefferson Hospital." I tried to speak, tasted copper, more blood. The paramedic fitted an oxygen mask over my face. "Don't try to talk. You've lost a lot of blood." Through the ambulance doors, I glimpsed my parents' lawn. Crime scene tape already being strung up. Officers with notebooks. Mom clutching Dad, her face a mask of anguish. "My parents," I managed to whisper. "They're following in their car," the paramedic assured me. The doors slammed shut. The sirens started. Each bump in the road sent fresh agony through my ribs. The paramedic worked around me, starting IVs, checking vitals, radioing ahead to the hospital. 29-year-old female assault victim, dislocated right shoulder, possible fractured ribs, facial trauma, significant blood loss. His clinical words reduced my nightmare to medical terminology. Just another trauma case rolling into the ER. Except I worked at a different hospital. My colleagues at Children's Hospital would hear about this. The gossip would spread like wildfire. The ambulance swayed around a corner and I glimpsed another stretcher. Lauren. She lay still, IVs already running her face gray beneath the bruises. "Is she?" I started. "She's stable," the paramedic said. "You both are. Just rest." But rest meant letting go, and I couldn't. Not yet. Not until I knew my parents were safe, that Marcus had been caught, that this nightmare was ending instead of escalating. The hospital's emergency bay approached in a blur of motion. Doctors and nurses waited, their faces professionally calm, but movements urgent. They transferred me from ambulance to hospital stretcher in one smooth motion. "Trauma 2, someone called out. The ceiling tiles flashed by overhead. 1, 2, 3, 4. I counted them like sheep trying to stay grounded. The trauma bay was controlled chaos. Nurses cutting away my blood-soaked clothes, doctors calling out orders machines beeping their electronic symphony. "Jacqueline, I'm Dr. Rodriguez." A woman with kind eyes behind surgical glasses leaned over me. "We're going to take good care of you. Can you tell me where it hurts most?" "Everywhere," I croaked. She smiled slightly. "Let's start with what we can see. Your shoulder is dislocated. We'll need x-rays to check for fractures before we reduce it. Your nose is broken and you've got some cracked ribs. We're running blood work now." They worked with efficiency I recognized from my own hospital experience. Professional distance mixed with genuine care. But being on this side of treatment felt surreal, like watching someone else's medical drama. Parents, I asked between procedures. Waiting room, a nurse assured me. Would you like me to update them? I nodded, then regretted it as the room spun. They'd already taken my phone for evidence, so I couldn't check the recording. Couldn't make sure the proof of Marcus's attack was safe. X-rays confirmed what Payne already told me: 3 cracked ribs, a clean shoulder dislocation, a fractured nose, and a mild concussion. Lucky, they said. Could have been much worse. We need to reduce your shoulder, Dr. Rodriguez explained. It's going to hurt, but then it'll feel better. They gave me something for the pain that made the edges of the world go soft. But when they manipulated my shoulder back into place, no amount of medication could touch that agony. I screamed. Then merciful darkness claimed me again. I woke in a different room, quieter. A regular hospital room with soft beeping and afternoon light filtering through blinds. My shoulder was immobilized in a sling, my ribs wrapped tight. Breathing hurt but felt possible. There she is. Mom sat beside my bed, aged 10 years since morning. How do you feel, sweetheart? Like I got hit by a truck. My voice was rough nasally from the nose splint. Where's Dad, Lauren? Dad's talking to the police. Lauren, Mom's face tightened. She's in surgery. Surgery. She was hemorrhaging. They couldn't stop it without... She paused. She wasn't pregnant, but there were complications from a recent procedure. The doctors think she tried to terminate something that wasn't there. Self-induced trauma to support her lie. The horror of it washed over me. Lauren had hurt herself to sell the fake pregnancy, then Marcus had hurt her worse. A spiral of deception and violence that had caught us all. Has Marcus been arrested? Mom nodded. They caught him trying to board a bus to New York. He's in custody. Relief made me sag into the pillows. At least that immediate threat was contained. A knock at the door preceded 2 visitors. Detective Williams, who'd taken my earlier report, entered with the FBI agent from this morning. Was it still the same day? Time had become meaningless. Ms. Morris, I'm sorry to bother you, but we need to take your statement while it's fresh. So, I told it again. Every detail from entering my apartment to collapsing at my parents' door. The detective recorded everything while Agent Chen took notes. They'd already reviewed my phone recording, which had captured the entire assault in horrifying audio. This is one of the clearest cases of assault and attempted murder I've seen, Detective Williams said. The recording alone will ensure conviction. Attempted murder. The way he came at you with that bat returned when he heard sirens. That shows intent to kill. He's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. What about Tony the loan shark? Agent Chen leaned forward. That's where things get interesting. Marcus is already trying to make a deal. Information on Torino's operation in exchange for a reduced sentence. He's turning informant. Self-preservation is a powerful motivator, but we'll need your testimony too. Are you willing? I thought about the threatening texts, the fear that had driven me to the FBI in the first place. Yes, whatever you need. They asked more questions about Tony, the loans, the forged documents. By the time they left, exhaustion weighed me down like a lead blanket. You should rest, Mom said, adjusting my covers with the fussy care of a worried mother. What about you? This must be devastating. She sank back in her chair. Watching one daughter destroy her life while trying to destroy the others, finding out my golden child is a criminal, and her husband is worse. Mom, no, I need to say this. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I failed you. All those years of favoritism, making excuses for Lauren, pushing you to help without question. I created this dynamic. You didn't make her forge documents or him swing a bat. But I made it easier. Made you the giver and her the taker. Made you feel like your worth came from helping others while hers came from achievement at any cost. We sat with that truth between us. Outside, I could hear the normal hospital sounds. Pages overhead, wheelchairs and hallways, life continuing, despite our personal catastrophe. She was my first, Mom whispered. When she was born, I thought I'd never love anything more. Then you came along and the love multiplied rather than divided. But somewhere along the way, I started protecting her more. She seemed to need it more. And I seemed stronger. You are, but that's no excuse for putting more burden on your shoulders. Dad appeared in the doorway looking haggard but relieved. You're awake. Thank God. He kissed my forehead gently, careful of my injuries. Lauren's out of surgery. She'll recover physically. And Marcus, charged with attempted murder, aggravated assault, extortion, fraud. The list goes on. Bail set at $2 million. His parents refused to post it. So he'd sit in jail awaiting trial. Good. The police need to interview you too, Dad told Mom, about what you witnessed at the house, Jacqueline's condition when she arrived. Mom nodded but didn't move. In a minute. I'm not leaving her yet. We existed in a bubble of quiet for a few moments. My body hurt everywhere, but the sharp edge of pain had been dulled by whatever they'd given me. I could think clearly for the first time in hours. What happens now? I asked. Now we heal, Dad said firmly, all of us, and we make sure justice is served. The house. Police release the scene. I'll clean up the blood. His jaw tightened at the words. Your apartment is still sealed. You'll stay with us when you're released. My job? Already called them. You're on medical leave as long as needed. They'd thought of everything while I was unconscious, handled the practical details while processing their own trauma. I'm sorry, I said, for bringing this to your door, for the blood on your walkway, the police cars, the neighbors watching. Don't you dare apologize, Mom said fiercely. You came home when you were hurt. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what family really means. A nurse came to check my vitals and administer more pain medication. The room began to soften around the edges again. Sleep, Dad encouraged. We'll be here. As I drifted off, I heard them talking quietly. About lawyers, about therapy, about how to move forward from here. Even half-conscious, I knew nothing would ever be the same. But I was alive. I'd survived Marcus's attack, made it home, and the truth was finally in the open. No more lies, no more manipulation, no more pretending everything was perfect. The last thing I remembered was Mom humming softly, the same lullaby she'd used when I was small and scared of monsters in the closet. Except now we all knew the real monsters had been sitting at our dinner table all along. I drifted in and out of medicated sleep throughout the night. Each time I woke, different family members kept vigil. Mom reading her Bible, Dad staring out the window, even my Aunt Patricia, who'd driven down from Boston after hearing the news. By Tuesday morning, the story had broken locally. Real estate agent arrested for brutal assault on sister-in-law over mortgage fraud. My name was withheld, but anyone who knew us would connect the dots. Dr. Rodriguez returned during morning rounds, 2 residents trailing behind her like ducklings. How's our pain level this morning? Manageable. I lied. Everything hurt, but I needed clarity more than comfort. She examined my injuries with gentle efficiency. The swelling in your face is already improving. Your shoulder will need physical therapy, but it should heal completely. The ribs will take 6 to 8 weeks. When can I go home? Let's see how you do today. I want to monitor that concussion another 24 hours. After she left, I convinced Mom to help me walk to Lauren's room. Each step jarred my ribs, but I needed to see my sister. Needed to understand if any part of our relationship could be salvaged. Lauren's room was under police guard. She was technically under arrest too, though medical needs took precedence. The officer recognized me from the report and let us pass. She looked smaller in the hospital bed, diminished without her perfect makeup and designer clothes. The bruises on her face had darkened to purple-black. An IV dripped steadily into her arm. Jacqueline, her voice was hoarse, surprised. Why are you here? You're my sister, I said, simply lowering myself carefully into the visitor's chair. Still, after everything. Being family doesn't end just because you made terrible choices, but our relationship will never be what it was. She turned her face away. Marcus is going to prison. Yes, for trying to kill you. A bitter laugh. My husband tried to murder my sister and I helped set it up. Why, the question I'd been carrying since finding those liens. How did it get this far? Lauren was quiet so long I thought she wouldn't answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was distant remembering. It started small. Marcus flipping one house, making $30,000 profit. Easy money, he said. We could have the life we deserved. Then the market shifted and we lost everything on the second flip. But instead of stopping, he doubled down. And you went along with it. I loved him. Love him. She corrected herself, then looked confused by her own emotions. He made me feel special, chosen, like I deserved more than... She gestured vaguely. Than what? Than being ordinary, like mom and dad, clipping coupons, driving used cars, shopping sales. I watched them my whole life, settling for less, and I swore I'd be different. They're happy, I pointed out. Are they, or just resigned? I thought about our parents, their quiet contentment, their steady love, their pride in simple accomplishments. There's a difference between wanting more and destroying yourself to get it. Easy to say from your noble nurse perspective. But there was no heat in it, just exhaustion. You found purpose in helping others. I only found it in having more than others. And when that required fraud, it didn't feel like fraud, just creative financing. Everyone does it, Marcus said. The successful ones just don't get caught. Until you do. Until you do, she agreed. We sat in silence. Down the hall, someone called for a doctor. The normal hospital rhythms continued around our family drama. The baby thing, I finally asked. Was any of it real? I had 7 miscarriages over 5 years, she said quietly. The last one was 2 months ago. I never told Marcus about that one. By then, our marriage was... He was different, meaner. The debt was crushing him. So you faked a pregnancy. I bought myself time. Thought if he believed I was pregnant, he'd be gentler. Stop the drinking, the raging. Maybe find legitimate work again. Instead, he used it as manipulation. Everything became manipulation. The whole marriage, really. 2 people lying to each other and calling it love. A knock interrupted us. Agent Chen entered with another FBI agent. Ms. Morris, both of you actually. We need to discuss the case against Anthony Torino. I've told you everything I said. Your brother-in-law is being extremely cooperative, Agent Chen explained. He's provided recordings, documents, names, but we need corroboration. You want me to testify against a mob loan shark? Lauren's voice pitched higher. They kill people for that, which is why we're offering witness protection, both of you. The words hung in the air like a bomb. Witness protection meant new identities, new cities, no contact with anyone from our old lives. Our parents, I started, could be at risk if Torino's associates seek leverage against you. This offer extends to them as well. Mom gripped my good hand. We need time to think. Of course, but decide quickly. Torino's bail hearing is Thursday. After they left, the 3 of us struggled to process this new complication. I can't ask you to give up your lives because of my mistakes, Lauren said. You're not asking. They're offering, Mom corrected. And we make decisions as a family, a real family this time. My phone, returned by police, buzzed with messages. Colleagues checking in friends who'd seen the news. Sharon from work. OMG Jacqueline. Are you okay? The whole pediatric ward is worried sick. Normal life felt impossibly distant. How could I return to caring for sick children when I'd potentially have a target on my back? Dr. Rodriguez returned for afternoon rounds. Good news. Your scans look stable. If you're comfortable, you can go home tomorrow. Home. But which home? My apartment was a crime scene. My parents' house might not be safe, and witness protection loomed as a terrible possibility. That evening, Dad gathered intelligence like the former soldier he was. Marcus's parents had issued a statement disowning their son. His real estate license was permanently revoked. The FBI had frozen all assets connected to Torino's operations. Marcus really gave them everything, Dad reported. 20 years of money laundering, 3 murders, corrupt cops. Torino's empire is crumbling. Because of us, I said. Because Marcus chose to involve a violent criminal in his schemes, Dad corrected firmly. Detective Williams called with an update. Torino's lawyer is pushing for bail reduction. If he gets out... She didn't need to finish. We all understood the implications. That night, I barely slept despite the pain medication. Every footstep in the hallway made me tense. When a food service worker dropped a tray, I nearly jumped out of bed. By Wednesday morning, the decision felt inevitable. I'll take the protection, I told Agent Chen when she returned, but only if my whole family is included. Lauren nodded from her bed. Me too. I've destroyed enough lives. I won't risk yours anymore. Mom and Dad exchanged long looks, leaving everything, their home, their friends, their entire life, because of their daughter's situation. Where would we go? Mom asked quietly. That's determined later for security reasons, somewhere with no connections to your current life. Our things. We pack what's essential. The marshals handle the rest. It was surreal discussing the logistics of disappearing. New names, new histories, new everything. When Dad asked, "If the judge denies Torino's bail reduction tomorrow, we have more time. If not, immediately." The rest of Wednesday passed in a blur of preparations. Discharge papers, pain prescriptions, physical therapy instructions for my shoulder, normal medical bureaucracy, while our lives hung in the balance. That evening, my parents brought clothes from home, soft pajamas that wouldn't irritate my ribs, my favorite sweatshirt, small comforts that might soon be all I had left of my old life. Your apartment landlord called, Mom mentioned. The police released it. He wanted to know about the lease. Another life detail to handle, along with my job, my friends, everything that made me Jacqueline Morris. Maybe this is a chance, Lauren said unexpectedly. She'd been quiet most of the day processing her own losses. To start over, become better people. I liked who I was. I said perhaps more sharply than intended. I had a life I chose, work that mattered. I know, I'm sorry, Her voice broke. I'm sorry isn't enough, is it, for what I've cost you? No, I said honestly, but it's a start. Thursday morning arrived gray and rainy, pathetic fallacy again as if weather tracked our drama. The bail hearing was at 10. We'd know our fate by lunch. Dr. Rodriguez cleared me for discharge. Follow up with orthopedics in 2 weeks for that shoulder. Take the pain meds as prescribed. And Jacqueline. She paused at the door. Whatever's happening with your family, be safe. I wondered if she knew about the witness protection possibility or just sensed the weight of unspoken fears. They wheeled me out in standard hospital protocol while I could walk. Dad had pulled the car around Mom, fussing with pillows to cushion my ribs during the ride. As we prepared to leave, my phone rang, Agent Chen. Did the judge deny bail reduction, she said without preamble. Torino's staying locked up pending trial. Relief made me sag against the wheelchair. So we have time. Some, but his associates are still out there. The offer stands if you want it. We'll discuss and let you know. Ms. Morris, you did the right thing. Your testimony will put away a very dangerous man. But as Dad helped me carefully into the car, I wondered about the cost of doing right. My sister faced prison time. My brother-in-law had tried to kill me. My parents might lose everything they'd built over 40 years. And somewhere in Philadelphia, Anthony Tony Torino sat in a cell planning revenge against the family that brought him down. The rain intensified as we drove toward my parents' house. Not home anymore, just another temporary stop before whatever came next. You okay? Mom asked, turning to check on me. I will be, I said, hoping it was true. But first there was healing to do. Not just physical, ribs and shoulders could mend. The deeper wounds the family trust shattered like my nose under Marcus's bat would take much longer, if they healed at all. The first week home passed in a haze of pain medication and physical therapy exercises. My childhood bedroom became a makeshift recovery ward complete with the same glow-in-the-dark stars that had watched over me decades ago. Mom had arranged everything with medical precision. Medications lined up on the dresser, a baby monitor so she could hear if I needed help at night, extra pillows to keep my ribs elevated. Detective Sarah Williams became a regular visitor. She was in her 40s with sharp eyes and a methodical approach that reminded me of the best doctors I worked with. She'd taken personal interest in our case, she explained, because domestic violence cases involving family financial fraud were becoming disturbingly common. Your brother-in-law wasn't as smart as he thought, she told me during one interview, spreading crime scene photos across my parents' dining room table. We found evidence of at least 6 other attempted fraud schemes in his computer. You weren't his first target, just the first to fight back effectively. The photos were hard to look at. My blood on the apartment floor, the hole in the wall where Marcus's bat had missed my head by inches, Lauren's trail leading to the door, crime scene markers indicating evidence. Who were the other targets? I asked. 2 elderly clients from his real estate days. His own parents. Did you know he tried to forge their signatures on a home equity loan? 3 other relatives on his mother's side, all variations of the same scheme. And none of them reported it. Family shame is a powerful silencer. Most victims of family financial fraud never come forward. She produced another folder, this one thick with financial records. Your recording changed everything, not just for the assault charges, but for building the complete picture. Marcus kept meticulous records, probably to track his lies. We've traced over $2 million in attempted fraud over 3 years. $2 million. Dad's coffee mug hit the table harder than intended. Attempted, Detective Williams clarified. He only succeeded in stealing about $300,000, mostly from elderly clients who trusted him. But with your sister's help, he was escalating. Lauren wasn't involved in the earlier schemes. I said, not sure why I felt compelled to defend her even slightly. No, her involvement seems to have started 18 months ago, right after Marcus lost his legitimate real estate license. The detective pulled out another document, but she took to it quickly. We found evidence of her researching identity theft techniques, practicing signatures, setting up fake email accounts. Each revelation felt like another blow. The sister who'd helped with my college essays had been Googling how to steal identities. The same hands that had bandaged my scraped knees had practiced forging my signature. There's something else, Detective Williams said, her tone shifting. The investigation into Anthony Torino has uncovered something unexpected. Your brother-in-law wasn't just borrowing money from him. She slid a photograph across the table, security camera footage showing Marcus meeting with several men in what looked like a warehouse. He was helping launder money through fake real estate transactions. That investment property he wanted you to co-sign for, it was going to be used to wash Torino's drug money. My stomach turned. So if I'd signed, you'd be criminally liable for money laundering. It's why they needed someone with clean credit and no criminal connections. You were perfect. A pediatric nurse with spotless records. Mom, who'd been quietly listening, finally spoke. How did Lauren not know about this? She claims ignorance, Detective Williams said carefully, but we found search histories suggesting she at least suspected. Terms like money laundering real estate and criminal liability co-signer appeared in her browser history dated 2 weeks before they approached you. The betrayal deepened with each detail. They hadn't just tried to destroy my credit, they'd tried to make me an accomplice to organized crime. What about Tony? Dad asked. Where does the case against him stand? That's where things get interesting. Marcus's cooperation has been extensive. He wore a wire to 3 meetings before his arrest, recorded phone calls, provided passwords to encrypted communications. He's terrified of Torino and desperately trying to reduce his sentence. How much time is he facing? I asked. Without cooperation, 25 to life for attempted murder, assault, fraud, money laundering. With cooperation, maybe 15 years. Maybe. And Lauren, Detective Williams's expression softened slightly. 5 to 7 for conspiracy and fraud, less if she cooperates too. The prosecutor is considering offering her a deal. What kind of deal? Testify against Marcus and Torino, plead guilty to lesser charges. Maybe 3 years out in 18 months with good behavior. 18 months. My sister could be free while I was still dealing with the trauma of her betrayal. That afternoon, Agent Chen arrived with updates on the federal case. The FBI had arrested 16 members of Torino's organization based on Marcus's information. "Your brother-in-law's testimony is the key to everything," she explained. "He was inside the organization for over a year. He knows where bodies are buried, literally in 2 cases." Bodies, Mom went pale. Torino doesn't tolerate people who don't pay. 2 missing persons cases from 2019 and 2021. Marcus witnessed the aftermath of what happens to defaulters. And he still borrowed from him. Dad's voice was incredulous. Desperation makes people stupid. He thought being useful to the organization would protect him. Laundering money, finding properties, recruiting other marks like Jacqueline. He was recruiting others. Agent Chen nodded grimly. 3 other family members were being groomed for similar schemes. Your refusal and the subsequent violence actually saved them. When Marcus attacked you, it blew everything wide open. My ribs ached as I shifted in the chair. Each breath still hurt, but not as much as learning the full scope of what I'd narrowly escaped. "There's another issue," Agent Chen continued. "Torino has connections inside the prison system. We've had to move Marcus twice already for his safety. If Torino reaches him—" "No testimony," Detective Williams finished. "Exactly, which brings us back to witness protection." The offer still stood. New identities, new lives, complete erasure of who we'd been. Safety in anonymity. "How long would we have to stay hidden?" Mom asked. "Until after the trial at minimum, possibly permanently depending on Torino's reach. And if we don't, we'll provide security as best we can, but..." Agent Chen shrugged. "Organized crime has a long memory." That evening, we held a family meeting. Lauren participated by phone from the hospital scheduled for discharge to police custody the next day. "I'll take the deal," she said without hesitation. "Testify, serve my time, disappear after. You shouldn't have to uproot your lives because of my choices." "We're a family," Dad said firmly. "We face this together." "Some family?" Lauren's bitter laugh crackled through the speaker. "I tried to destroy Jacqueline's life." "You made terrible choices," Mom agreed. "But you're still our daughter. We don't abandon family." "Maybe you should. Maybe if you'd held me accountable earlier." She wasn't wrong. The years of excuses, special treatment, blind eyes to red flags, they'd all led here. But assigning blame wouldn't change our current reality. "I've been thinking about witness protection," I said slowly. "Starting over somewhere new, being someone else, is that really living or just another kind of prison?" "A prison where you're alive," Agent Chen pointed out. "But not myself. Not a nurse at Children's Hospital. Not Jacqueline Morris, who worked 3 years to perfect the night shift NICU protocols. Just some made-up person with a fake history." "Better than being dead," Lauren said quietly. "Is it, though, giving up everything I am because you and Marcus decided to play criminals?" "Harsh, maybe. But the pain medication was wearing off, and with it my filters." "What are you saying?" Mom asked. "I'm saying maybe I stay and fight, testify openly, refuse to let them take anything else from me." "That's brave but foolish," Detective Williams said. "I've seen what Torino's people do to witnesses. And I've seen what happens when you let fear control your life. Lauren was so afraid of being ordinary that she became a criminal. Marcus was so afraid of failure, he tried to murder me. Maybe it's time to stop being afraid." Dad reached for my hand. "This isn't just about you. If you stay visible, we're all targets." He was right. My defiance would paint a target on everyone I loved. "Give us a week," I requested, "to think, to heal, to figure out our options." Both investigators agreed, though Agent Chen warned that delays could limit our protection options. That night, unable to sleep from pain and racing thoughts, I found myself at my laptop researching. Not Torino or witness protection, but something else. Other victims of family fraud, support groups, resources. What I found staggered me. Thousands of stories like mine. Sisters, brothers, parents, children, all betrayed by family members who chose crime over conscience. The financial abuse was often accompanied by emotional manipulation, gaslighting, violence when challenged. I wasn't alone. We weren't alone. One website caught my attention, Families Against Financial Fraud, a nonprofit supporting victims and advocating for stronger laws. Their founder, Patricia Coleman, had a story eerily similar to mine. Brother-in-law fake investment assault when she refused. Instead of hiding, she'd fought back, testified publicly, started the organization, helped pass legislation making family financial fraud a specific crime with enhanced penalties. I bookmarked the page, an idea forming. Maybe there was a third option. Not hiding, not just surviving, but transforming this nightmare into something meaningful, like I'd done with nursing, taking pain and making it purpose. The next morning brought unexpected visitors. My supervisor, Sharon, from Children's Hospital, arrived with 2 other colleagues, arms full of cards from the pediatric ward. The kids made these when they heard you were hurt. Sharon explained, helping me sort through crayon drawings and glittery get-well wishes. You told them, just that Nurse Jacqueline had an accident and would be back when she felt better. But you know how kids are. They wanted to help. One card from 7-year-old Tammy, who'd spent months in our ward with leukemia, made me tear up. Nurse Jackie, you helped me be brave when I was scared. Now I'm sending brave back to you. We miss you, Sharon said gently. The ward isn't the same. But take all the time you need. Your job will be waiting. What if I can't come back? What if things are complicated? Sharon studied my face, reading between the lines. You know what I love about pediatric nurses? We're fighters. We don't give up on our kids, and we don't give up on ourselves. Whatever's happening, you'll find a way through. After they left, I sat surrounded by children's artwork, feeling something shift inside me. These kids face scarier battles than Torino every day. They fought cancer, genetic disorders, conditions that would terrify adults, and they did it with crayon-bright courage. Could I do less? Detective Williams called that afternoon with a development. Torino's lawyer filed an appeal on the bail decision. Hearing is Monday. What are the chances? 50-50. He has high-powered lawyers arguing that Marcus's testimony is unreliable, that Torino's a businessman being framed by a desperate criminal. But the evidence is strong but not airtight without testimony, which is why your decision matters so much. 5 days to decide. Stay and fight or disappear forever. I looked at Tammy's card again, sending brave back to you. Maybe brave wasn't about not being afraid. Maybe it was about choosing what mattered more than fear. My family's safety mattered, but so did standing up to men like Torino who thought violence could silence truth. So did showing Lauren that there was another way to be strong. So did those kids in the ward who needed their Nurse Jackie back. Detective, I said, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. What would it take to make the case airtight to guarantee Torino stays locked up? Your testimony, Lauren's testimony, Marcus alive to testify, and probably video evidence of Torino himself ordering violence. Does Marcus have that? He says yes, hidden recordings he made for insurance, but he'll only produce them if we guarantee his safety. A plan began forming. Dangerous, maybe impossible, but better than running. What if we could get all of that, every piece? Would you be able to protect us here instead of making us disappear? Detective Williams was quiet for a long moment. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? I'm suggesting we stop playing defense. Time to fight back. That's either very brave or very stupid. My sister says I've always been both. Your sister's right, but let me talk to the FBI. If we're doing this, we do it right. After she hung up, I sat in the quiet of my childhood room, surrounded by get-well cards and memories. The glow-in-the-dark stars still clung to the ceiling, faded but persistent. Like hope. Like courage sent by children who knew that sometimes the only way through scary things was straightforward. The investigation was revealing more than just crimes. It was showing me who I was when everything else was stripped away. and I wasn't someone who ran. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp October air that usually made me think of pumpkin spice and cozy sweaters. Instead, I stood at my bedroom window watching unmarked FBI vehicles position themselves around our neighborhood. Today was the day Marcus would deliver his hidden recordings, Torino's bail hearing would proceed, and our coordinated response would begin. Detective Williams had worked through the weekend with Agent Chen to devise what they called Operation Family Fraud, a multi-pronged approach to ensure all evidence was secured and all parties protected. It started with Marcus. At exactly 9 a.m., my phone rang, an unknown number, but I'd been expecting it. Jacqueline. Marcus's voice was barely recognizable. Weeks in protective custody had stripped away his salesman's confidence. I need to apologize. Save it for court. I said, though my hand shook holding the phone. Agent Chen had insisted on this call. Marcus needed to believe I might forgive him to ensure his continued cooperation. I never meant for it to go so far. The violence. I was desperate, high, not myself. You were exactly yourself, just without the mask. You're right, he admitted after a pause. I've been wearing masks so long I forgot there was anything underneath. The recordings I pressed, where are they? Safety deposit box at First National, but Jacqueline, there's something else, something I haven't told the FBI. Agent Chen, listening on another line, made urgent gestures for me to continue. What? Torino has a partner, someone inside law enforcement. That's how he's avoided prosecution for so long. The recordings, they prove it. Who? Captain Michael Brennan, Northeast Precinct. He's been feeding Torino information, protecting shipments, making evidence disappear. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. A corrupt police captain changed everything. Does Torino know you have these recordings? No. I made them for insurance like everyone assumed, but also because I didn't trust anyone in this mess. Not Torino, not his cops, not even Lauren. Why tell me now? Because they're moving me again today. Another facility. If something happens to me, someone needs to know where the evidence is. The key is hidden in Lauren's jewelry box, the one she keeps at your parents' house. Blue velvet bottom drawer of her old dresser. The line went dead. Agent Chen burst into my room moments later. Did you know about the jewelry box? I nodded. Lauren left it here years ago, said it had sentimental value. Dad was already heading upstairs to retrieve it. Inside, beneath tangled costume necklaces and forgotten earrings, lay a small brass key. We need to move fast, Agent Chen said. If there's really a corrupt captain involved, he could warn Torino. Detective Williams finished having arrived during the call. We need those recordings before anyone knows we're aware. The next 2 hours moved with military precision. A federal team secured the bank, evacuating other customers under the pretense of a gas leak. I watched from a surveillance van as agents retrieved a small digital recorder and several USB drives from Marcus's deposit box. Back in the van, Agent Chen plugged in the first drive. What we heard chilled everyone present. Torino's voice clear and commanding. Brennan says the hit on the Morrison warehouse is clear for Thursday. No patrols between 2 and 4 a.m. Captain Brennan responding, my guys will be conveniently across town, but this is the last time, Tony. The heat's getting too much. You'll do what you're paid for, Torino snarled. Unless you want those photos of you and the councilman's wife going public. More recordings followed. Bribes discussed casually. Evidence tampering planned like grocery lists. 3 murders orchestrated with police protection ensuring the killers escaped. This is it, Agent Chen breathed. This breaks the entire organization wide open. But it also meant we were in more danger than ever. A corrupt captain could access witness information, safe house locations, transport schedules. Where's Marcus now? I asked. Agent Chen checked her phone. In transit to... Oh no. What? Captain Brennan's precinct is handling the transfer. The room exploded into motion. Calls were made, units dispatched. But we all knew the truth. If Brennan was dirty, Marcus was probably already dead. 40 minutes later, confirmation came. The transport van had been found abandoned on a rural road. 2 marshals dead, Marcus missing. No body, though, Detective Williams noted. They took him alive. Torture, Agent Chen said grimly. To find out what he knows, who else has copies. My phone buzzed, Lauren from her holding cell. They just told me about Marcus. This is my fault, all of it. I didn't respond. What was there to say? The bail hearing proceeded despite Marcus's disappearance, or perhaps because of it. Torino's lawyers argued their client was being framed by a convict who'd now conveniently vanished. But the prosecution played their ace, Marcus's recordings. The courtroom fell silent as Torino's voice filled the space ordering murders, discussing bribes threatening anyone who crossed him. I watched on a closed-circuit feed from a secure location as Torino's face went from confident to murderous. When his own voice described how he'd disposed of a rival, cut him up, fed him to the dogs, scattered the bones in 6 states, several jurors looked physically ill. Bail was denied. Torino would remain in federal custody. But Captain Brennan was still free, and Marcus was still missing. That afternoon, we faced another crisis. Local news had picked up the story. Police captain arrested in massive corruption probe. Our names weren't mentioned yet, but reporters were digging. We need to move you, Agent Chen insisted. All of you. Tonight. No, I said, surprising everyone, including myself. We're done running, done hiding. If we disappear now, Torino wins even from jail. This isn't a game, Detective Williams said. Marcus is probably being tortured right now. You could be next. Then use me as bait. The room went silent. Think about it. I continued the plan, crystallizing as I spoke. Brennan's desperate. He knows we have the recordings. He'll come for me or Lauren to find out what else Marcus told us. When he does... Absolutely not, Dad said. I won't let you paint a target on yourself. The target's already there. At least this way we control when and where. Agent Chen and Detective Williams exchanged looks. It could work, Chen admitted reluctantly. We've done similar operations. With trained agents, not civilian witnesses. I'm not just a civilian, I reminded them. I'm a nurse. I stay calm under pressure, follow protocols, handle life or death situations daily. I can do this. The debate raged for hours. Finally, a compromise was reached. I would appear to resume normal activities, a carefully choreographed return to routine designed to draw out Brennan or his associates. But I'd be surrounded by invisible protection at all times. 1 week, Agent Chen agreed. If nothing happens in 1 week, you go into protection. That evening, as technicians installed hidden cameras and panic buttons throughout my parents' house, my phone rang. Another unknown number. Hello, Jacqueline. The voice was smooth-cultured, not Marcus. My name is Anthony Torino. I believe you have something that belongs to me. My blood froze. How did you get this number? Captain Brennan is quite resourceful. Now, about those recordings, I don't know what you're talking about. Let me refresh your memory. Your brother-in-law is currently enjoying my hospitality. He's been quite chatty, mentioned you specifically. A muffled scream in the background made my stomach lurch. That's him saying hello, Torino continued conversationally. Now here's what's going to happen. You're going to deliver all copies of those recordings to a location I'll specify. You'll come alone. Do this, and Marcus lives. Refuse. Another scream, longer this time. I need proof he's alive, I managed. Marcus, say something to your sister-in-law. Jacqueline. Marcus's voice was weak, pained. The blue house on Maple Street. You remember. Tell Lauren I'm sorry about the baby. The real one. The line went dead. Agent Chen had been tracing the call. Burner phone, but we got a general location. Industrial District North Side. The blue house on Maple Street. I repeated. That's where Lauren and I lived in college. He's trying to tell me something. The baby comment. Lauren had a miscarriage our junior year. She never told anyone but Marcus and me. He's confirming it's really him. So he's alive, Detective Williams said. But for how long? We had a decision to make. Hand over evidence that would free a monster or let my brother-in-law die. The same man who'd tried to kill me with a baseball bat. We make copies, I said. Give them something that looks real but edited. Buy time while you track them down. They'll kill him when they realize it's fake. They'll kill him anyway once they have what they want. At least this gives us a chance. Mom, who'd been silent through everything, finally spoke. Do we save the man who tried to murder my daughter? We save him because we're better than them, Dad said quietly, because that's what separates us from people like Torino. The FBI tech team worked through the night creating convincing fakes, recordings with key sections removed or altered, just enough truth to seem real, not enough to be useful. By dawn Tuesday, everything was in place. The arrest of Captain Brennan had made headlines. Torino remained in federal custody but clearly still commanded his organization from inside. And somewhere in an industrial building, Marcus waited for a rescue that might come too late. I stared at the sunrise from my childhood window, ribs aching with each breath. In a few hours, I'd meet with kidnappers and killers, armed only with fake evidence and hidden FBI backup. Tammy's Get Well card sat on my dresser, sending brave back to you. I was going to need every ounce of it. The abandoned textile factory loomed against the gray Tuesday sky like a tombstone. I sat in my Honda parked where Torino's people had instructed, watching rain streak down the windshield. The wire taped to my ribs felt obvious even under my baggy sweatshirt. Every breath reminded me of Marcus's bat, the healing fractures that still made me wince. Testing, testing, I whispered. Agent Chen's voice crackled in my earpiece. We hear you clearly. 6 units in position. You don't have to do this. But I did. Not for Marcus, who'd tried to destroy me. For closure. For justice. For proving that Torino couldn't reach out from a jail cell and control our lives. The USB drives with doctored recordings sat heavy in my pocket. Enough truth to pass initial inspection, enough lies to buy time. Hopefully. A black SUV pulled up beside me. The window lowered, revealing a man who looked like a boxer gone to seed. You Jacqueline? I nodded. Out of the car, arms spread. I complied, rain immediately soaking through my clothes. He patted me down with professional efficiency, missing the wire but confiscating my phone. Inside, 3rd floor, come alone or he dies. The factory's interior was a maze of rusted machinery and broken windows. Water dripped through holes in the ceiling, creating echoing plinks that masked other sounds. My footsteps seemed too loud as I climbed metal stairs to the 3rd floor. Straight ahead, Chen guided through the earpiece. Heat signatures show 4 people in the main room. I pushed through a heavy door into what had once been an office space. Marcus hung from chains attached to an overhead beam, unconscious or close to it. Blood covered his expensive shirt, or what remained of it. 2 men flanked him, while a 3rd sat behind a desk, incongruously civilized in the decay. Ms. Morris, the seated man said pleasantly. Vincent Torino, Tony's cousin. Thank you for coming. The recordings for Marcus, that was the deal. Was it I thought the deal was you'd come alone? He produced a device, waved it near me. The detector squealed immediately. FBI wire, how disappointing. My heart hammered as one of the guards ripped the wire out, throwing it across the room. Now we can talk honestly, Vincent continued. The recordings... I pulled out the USB drives with trembling hands. He inserted one into a laptop speakers, filling the room with his cousin's voice, discussing bribes and murders. Good quality, he mused. But something's missing. The part where Tony mentions the warehouse locations, the shipment dates, the account numbers. That's everything Marcus had. Is it... He stood, walked over to Marcus, produced a knife. Let's ask him. The blade sliding into Marcus's thigh woke him with a scream. His eyes found mine, confused and terrified. Tell your sister-in-law to give us the real recordings, Vincent instructed. I don't... Marcus gasped. Jacqueline, please. I gave you everything. Vincent tisked. The edited portions are subtle but detectable. Our tech guy's very good. Now the real files or I start removing fingers. Team's breaching in 60 seconds. Chen's voice came from the discarded wire, tinny but audible. Hold on. Vincent heard it too. His pleasant mask slipped. 60 seconds is a long time. Jorge Pedro, make it painful. The guards moved toward Marcus with disturbing eagerness, but they'd dismissed me as a threat, the scared nurse who'd walked into their trap. They didn't know I'd spent 3 years working emergency pediatric trauma, that I'd learned to stay calm when children's lives hung in the balance, that adrenaline made me focused, not frozen. I grabbed a rusted pipe from the floor and swung it at Jorge's knee. The crack was audible even over his scream. He went down, hard gun skittering away. Pedro turned, raising his weapon, but Marcus used his last strength to kick out, catching him in the back. The shot went wide, shattering a window. Vincent drew his own gun, but I was already moving. The pipe connected with his wrist. He cursed, dropping the weapon. We grappled for it on the filthy floor. 30 seconds, Chen's voice shouted from somewhere. Vincent was stronger, but I was desperate. I bit his hand, tasting blood. He reared back and I drove my knee into his solar plexus. Air whooshed out of him. Breaching now. The world exploded. Flashbang grenades, shouting boots thundering upstairs. FBI agents flooded the room, weapons drawn. Clear. Suspect down. Medic needed. I rolled away from Vincent as agents cuffed him. My ribs screamed protest. The fight had undone weeks of healing. Blood ran from my nose again, though I couldn't remember being hit. Jacqueline. Agent Chen appeared, helping me sit up. Are you hit? Are you injured? Marcus, I gasped. Help Marcus. Paramedics were already working on him, cutting the chains, starting IVs. He was unconscious again, but breathing. You did it, Chen said. You got them talking, got evidence, survived until we arrived. The recordings, I managed. Vincent confirmed they were edited. That's admission of guilt, right? Gold star evidence, she confirmed. With 3 witnesses to attempted murder, kidnapping, torture. The Torino organization is finished. They loaded me onto a gurney despite protests. As we passed Marcus, his eyes fluttered open. Jacqueline, he whispered, thank you. I didn't do it for you. I know, that's what makes it heroic. Heroic. I thought of Tammy and the other kids in my ward facing down cancer. That was heroic. This was just surviving. At the hospital, Jefferson again becoming too familiar, they re-x-rayed everything. 2 refractured ribs, torn stitches in my shoulder, new bruising adding to the old rainbow. You're making a habit of this, Dr. Rodriguez said disapprovingly. 3 weeks of healing undone. But everyone's alive. Marcus is in surgery, significant blood loss, organ damage, but he'll make it. Lauren arrived as they were admitting me, flanked by federal marshals. She looked smaller in her orange jumpsuit, aged by weeks in custody. They'd brought her to say goodbye to Marcus before his surgery, maybe for the last time. You saved him, she said, standing awkwardly by my bed. After everything, you still saved him. I saved myself, he just benefited. Still. She sat carefully, mindful of the chains. I've had a lot of time to think about who we became, who I became. Mom visited yesterday, showed me pictures from when we were kids. Remember the summer we ran a lemonade stand? I did. 7 and 12 selling watery lemonade for a quarter, splitting the proceeds exactly, even though Lauren did most of the work. You insisted on fair shares, she continued. Said it didn't matter who did what, we were partners. I thought you were naive then. Now I realize you understood something I never did. What's that? That fairness isn't about getting what you can. It's about making sure everyone gets what they need. Pretty words from someone facing prison. Fair. She looked at her hands. I've agreed to testify, full cooperation. Names, dates, every crime I know about. The prosecutor says 18 months if I'm lucky. And after, witness protection, new name, new city, no contact with anyone from this life. Her voice broke. I'll never see you again. Despite everything that hurt, The sister who'd carried me home with a scraped knee, who'd taught me to braid hair and paint nails, who'd been my first best friend, she'd disappear forever. Maybe that's for the best, I said, though the words tasted like ash. Maybe, but Jacqueline, for what it's worth, I'm proud of who you became, even if I couldn't be. The marshals returned to take her away. At the door, she turned back. The baby thing, it was real once. The miscarriage 2 months ago. I know it doesn't matter now, but I wanted you to know something true. Then she was gone, my sister soon to be erased from existence. The rest unfolded quickly. Vincent Torino was charged with kidnapping, attempted murder conspiracy. Without Captain Brennan's protection and with Marcus's evidence intact, the organization crumbled. Marcus survived surgery but faced decades in prison. His parents finally showed up hiring lawyers, making excuses. But there was no escaping the recordings, the evidence, the trail of victims. 2 weeks later, I stood in federal court to testify. Torino himself sat at the defense table, no longer the untouchable crime boss, but a caged predator. His eyes promised retribution, but I didn't look away. I told the truth, all of it. The loans, the threats, the violence. Marcus's recordings played for the jury. Torino ordering murders in his own voice. Captain Brennan detailing police corruption. Vincent describing torture techniques. Were you afraid? The prosecutor asked. Terrified, I admitted. But fear doesn't justify letting dangerous men walk free. The defense tried to paint me as vindictive, seeking revenge on Marcus through Torino. But the evidence was overwhelming. Guilty on all counts. Life without parole. As they led him away, Torino looked at me one last time. This isn't over, he mouthed. But it was. His organization was destroyed. His corrupt cops imprisoned. His reign of terror ended. By one nurse who'd said no to a mortgage. That evening, we held a strange celebration at my parents' house. Justice served, but family destroyed. Mom made a toast with apple cider, to doing the right thing even when it costs everything. To starting over, Dad added. To the truth, I finished. We clinked glasses in the kitchen where weeks ago I'd shown them evidence of Lauren's betrayal. So much had changed, so much lost, but we'd survived. My phone buzzed with a text from Sharon at work. Saw the news. Incredible testimony. The kids made you something. Can I bring it by? 20 minutes later, she arrived with a poster board covered in handprints. Each small hand had written a message. Nurse Jackie is brave. You're our hero. Get better soon. We miss you. In the center, Tammy had drawn a picture of a nurse with a cape standing on top of a mountain labeled Bad Guys. She insisted on the cape, Sharon explained. Said all heroes have them, even if we can't see them. I traced the tiny handprints, each representing a child who'd faced their own mountains, who'd taught me more about courage than any FBI training could. When can you come back? Sharon asked gently. The ward needs you. Soon, I promised. Just a few more weeks to heal. Take your time, but know you're missed. What you did, testifying like that, standing up to those men. The whole hospital's talking about it. You've inspired people. After she left, I sat with the poster surrounded by evidence of the life I'd fought to keep. Not witness protection, not running, not hiding. Just Jacqueline Morris, pediatric nurse, who'd said no to a bully and lived to tell about it. The price had been high. A sister lost to prison and erasure, a family forever changed injuries that would ache for years. But I was still here, still myself. That had to count for something. 6 months later, I stood in the NICU at Children's Hospital checking on a premature infant who'd been born at 26 weeks. Little fighter, just like all of them. The morning sun streamed through windows I'd insisted on keeping uncovered despite security recommendations. I refused to work in fear. Looking good, little man, I whispered, adjusting his oxygen levels. My shoulder twinged. It always would now, Dr. Rodriguez had warned. A permanent reminder of Marcus's baseball bat. Jacqueline. My colleague Emma appeared in the doorway. There's someone here to see you. Says it's important. I found Patricia Coleman waiting in the family lounge. The founder of Families Against Financial Fraud looked exactly like her website photo. Mid-50s professional blazer eyes that had seen too much, but remained kind. "Ms. Morris, thank you for meeting with me. I've been following your case." "The trial's over," I said carefully. "I'm trying to move forward." "Which is why I'm here. You testified publicly despite enormous pressure to enter witness protection. Do you know how rare that is?" "Stupid, some would say." "Courageous, I'd argue. Since your testimony aired, we've had over 300 families contact us. People who saw you stand up to the Torinos and thought maybe they could stand up to their own abusers." She pulled out a folder thick with printed emails. "These are just from the last month. Victims finding strength in your story. But they need more than inspiration. They need practical help, legal resources, a voice in legislation." "What are you asking?" "Join us. Not full-time. I know your nursing is a calling, but as a spokesperson, advocate board member, your voice carries weight now." I thought of Lauren somewhere in witness protection with a new name and manufactured history, of Marcus serving year 1 of his 20-year sentence, of all the families being torn apart by similar betrayals. "I'll think about it," I promised. That afternoon brought another surprise. Mom called excitement barely contained. "You need to come home. Now. Trust me." I found my parents' house transformed. The front lawn where I'd collapsed 6 months ago now hosted a party. Neighbors, colleagues from the hospital, even Detective Williams and Agent Chen mingled over barbecue. "What is this?" "Your comeback party," Dad announced, flipping burgers with military precision. 6 months since the attack. Time to celebrate survival." "I don't need—" "Yes, you do," Mom interrupted. "We all do. We've spent enough time in courtrooms and hospitals. Today we remember what we're fighting for." She was right. I'd become so focused on healing and testimony that I'd forgotten to actually live. But here was life. Messy, noisy, beautiful. Sharon had brought half the pediatric ward. My physical therapist chatted with the FBI agents who'd saved my life. Tammy, finally in remission, played tag with other children, her baldness covered by a sparkly hat. Nurse Jackie. She ran over, wrapping thin arms around my waist. "I'm all better, just like you." "Better than better," I agreed, hugging her carefully. As sunset approached, Detective Williams pulled me aside. "Thought you should know. Anthony Torino died this morning. Heart attack in federal prison. Natural causes before you ask." I felt nothing. Maybe relief. Maybe just empty. The man who'd orchestrated so much violence was gone, but it didn't undo anything. "Also," she continued, "Marcus wants to see you. He's requested a visit multiple times." "No." "He says he has information about other victims who need help." "Then he can tell you." "He'll only tell you. Says he owes you that much." I looked across the yard at my rebuilt life. Did I owe Marcus anything? Did his information justify reopening wounds? "I'll go," I decided, once, for the victims, not for him. The following week, I drove 3 hours to the federal correctional facility where Marcus served his time. The waiting room depressed me. Families torn apart, children visiting fathers they barely knew, the weight of consequences made visible. Marcus looked smaller in prison gray. The confident salesman had been replaced by something hollow, desperate. We sat across a scarred table, guards watching. "You came," he said. "You have information about victims. Talk." "How's Lauren?" "Gone, as you know. Talk about the victims or I leave." He nodded slowly. "There were 12 others. Families I targeted before yours. Some lost houses, retirement savings. 2 elderly couples are homeless now. I kept records." He slid a paper across the table. Names, addresses, amounts stolen. His trophies become confessions. "Why tell me?" "Because I dream about them. Every night. Their faces when they realized I'd stolen everything." His hands shook. "I tell myself I'm not that person anymore, but I was. I did those things. Maybe helping them helps me sleep." "This isn't about your redemption." "No, but it's something. Will you make sure they get help? The fraud recovery fund insurance claims whatever's available. I pocketed the list. Yes. Thank you. And Jacqueline, I know sorry means nothing, but you're right. It means nothing. But giving me this list, that means something. Not forgiveness, not absolution, but something. I left him there, drove home through spring countryside, coming alive after winter. The list burned in my pocket. 12 families who needed what Patricia Coleman offered. That night, I called her. I'm in, part-time but committed. Welcome aboard. When can you start? I already have. The next months blurred together. Days in the NICU evenings working with fraud victims. I testified before the state legislature about strengthening financial abuse laws, helped families navigate recovery resources, shared my story when it could help others find their voice. 1 year after the attack, I received an unexpected letter. No return address, postmarked from Oregon. Jay, I know I'm not supposed to contact anyone, but I needed you to know. I'm okay. Different name, different life, but okay. I work at a small clinic filing papers and answering phones. Nothing glamorous, but honest. I volunteer at a women's shelter on weekends, helping women who've lost everything to bad relationships. Maybe it's penance, maybe just trying to balance the scales. I think about you every day, about the sister I could have been if I'd made different choices. I'm proud of what you've become. I saw the news about the legislation you helped pass. Mom sent photos through our handler. You look good, happy. The scar on your lip makes you look like a warrior, which I guess you are. I won't write again, too dangerous. But know that somewhere in Oregon, your sister is trying to earn the second chance she never deserved. Be safe, be happy, be everything I couldn't. All my love, La. I read it 3 times before putting it in my jewelry box, the same one where Marcus had hidden the key that started everything. Lauren was alive, working, helping others. It didn't erase what she'd done, but maybe redemption was possible. Maybe. That evening, I attended another Families Against Financial Fraud meeting. 30 people crowded into the community center, sharing stories of betrayal and survival. I recognized myself in their faces, the shock, the grief, the slow journey toward reclaiming their lives. The hardest part, one woman shared, is that I still love my son. Even after he stole my retirement, I love him. Love doesn't mean accepting abuse, I said. It means wanting them to be better while protecting yourself from who they are now. After the meeting, a young man approached. My brother's trying to force me to co-sign a business loan. After hearing your story, I'm saying no. Thank you for showing me it's okay to protect myself. One person saved from what I'd endured, then another, then dozens. Each testimony, each legislative hearing, each family helped. They added up to something larger than my individual trauma. My phone buzzed with a text from Tammy's mother. She insists on inviting you to her Make-A-Wish party. She wished to meet all the nurses who saved her, but especially you. I smiled, texting back acceptance. The cycle continued, healing leading to helping, leading to more healing. That night, I stood in my new apartment. The old one held too many bloody memories looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Marcus sat in a cell contemplating his crimes. Lauren lived under an assumed name, trying to atone. Mom and Dad had found their way back to peace, their home no longer haunted by what had happened on their doorstep. And me, I was Jacqueline Morris, pediatric nurse and advocate, survivor and thriver. The scar on my lip had faded to a thin white line, but the strength I'd found facing down the Torinos had only grown. My ribs still ached during weather changes. My shoulder would never have full range of motion, but I was here myself, living the life I'd fought to keep. Tomorrow I'd work with tiny fighters in the NICU. Evening would bring another fraud victim seeking help. The weekend promised Tammy's party and legislative strategy sessions. A full life, a meaningful life, a life that almost wasn't saved by saying no. The stars outside weren't visible through city lights, nothing like the glow-in-the-dark ones from childhood, but I knew they were there constant despite invisible. Like courage, like hope, like the strength found in the worst moments that carries you through to better ones. My phone rang. Patricia with news of another family needing help. "I'll be right there," I promised. Because that's what you do when you've been pulled from the wreckage. You turn around and extend a hand to the next person struggling to climb out. You rebuild one life at a time. 2 years after the attack, I stood at a podium in the Pennsylvania state capitol. The room was packed. Legislators, advocates, survivors, and media. My hands were steady now, no tremor betraying the journey that had brought me here. Financial fraud by family members destroys more than bank accounts. I read from prepared remarks I'd written and rewritten dozens of times. It shatters trust, devastates relationships, and leaves victims questioning their own judgment. Today, with the passage of the Family Financial Fraud Prevention Act, Pennsylvania leads the nation in protecting vulnerable citizens from predatory relatives. The applause was thunderous. Senate Bill 847 had passed, mandatory reporting for financial institutions when family members attempt suspicious transactions, enhanced penalties for family financial abuse, and funding for victim support services. My story, along with hundreds of others, had made this moment possible. Patricia Coleman hugged me as I left the podium. "You did it. You actually did it." "We did it," I corrected. 300 testimonies, 18 months of lobbying, countless sleepless nights. But you were the face of it, the nurse who stood up to the mob to protect her future. That resonates. After the signing ceremony, reporters crowded around. I'd learned to handle media attention, another skill I'd never wanted but now possessed. "Ms. Morris, what would you say to someone currently being pressured by family to co-sign loans? Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Love doesn't require financial destruction. Real family protects your future, not exploits it." "Any word from your sister?" "No comment on that." Lauren remained in witness protection, her single letter the only contact. I respected the boundary even as I wondered who she'd become. Marcus Wheeler has requested early release based on his cooperation. Any thoughts? The justice system will decide. I'm focused on helping current victims, not revisiting past verdicts. That evening, my phone rang with an unexpected caller. Agent Chen, now Deputy Director Chen. "Jacqueline, congratulations on the legislation. Watch the signing on C-SPAN." "Thanks. How's the Bureau?" "Good. Listen, I'm calling with news. Marcus was attacked in prison yesterday. He's alive, but in critical condition." My stomach clenched. "Torino's people..." "We think so. Even with Anthony dead, the organization has remnants. Marcus has been moved to protective medical custody, but he might not make it. The doctors give him 50-50 odds. His parents are flying in. They've requested you visit. Said you're the only one who truly understands what happened." I testified. "I saved him once, that's enough." "I agree. Just passing along the message." I hung up feeling unsettled. Marcus had tried to kill me, yet I'd saved him from Vincent Torino. Did I owe him anything more? Did his cooperation and revelations of other victims earn him deathbed consideration? My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Please come, Marcus's mother." Then another, "He keeps asking for you. Says he needs to tell you something about Lauren." That decided it. Any information about my sister was worth hearing. The next morning, I drove to the federal medical facility where they'd transferred Marcus. His parents waited in the lobby, older, grayer, diminished by their son's crimes. "Thank you for coming," his mother whispered. "We know we have no right to ask." 15 minutes, I said. That's all. Marcus looked like death warmed over. Tubes monitors the whole medical orchestra, keeping him alive. His eyes tracked to me alert despite the morphine. "Jacqueline." His voice was barely a whisper. "Thank you. Your parents said you have information about Lauren." "First, need to tell you, the other families. Did they get help?" "All 12. Restitution from frozen assets, social services support fraud recovery assistance. They're rebuilding." "Good." He closed his eyes briefly. "Lauren, she wrote to me. Month ago. Guards slipped it through." "That's illegal. She's risking her protection." "She's pregnant." The words hit like physical blows. Really pregnant this time, due in 3 months. Father's a doctor at her clinic, doesn't know about her past. I sank into the visitor's chair. Lauren pregnant again, starting fresh with someone who didn't know she was a convicted felon in hiding. She wanted me to tell you if anything happened, said you deserve to know you'll be an aunt. I'll never meet this child. No, but it'll exist. Part of your bloodline growing up safe somewhere far away. She said she hopes to raise it with the values she forgot, the ones you never lost. A machine beeped urgently. Medical staff rushed in. Marcus gripped my hand with surprising strength. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her the baby's better off never knowing what we were. They pushed me out as alarms sounded. In the hallway, his parents clung to each other. I couldn't offer comfort. Their son had made his choices. But I could offer truth. He helped other victims. In the end, he tried to balance the scales. Is that enough? His father asked desperately. Does that matter? It matters to the 12 families who got their lives back. Whether it's enough, that's not for me to judge. I left them there and drove home through spring rain. Lauren pregnant. Building a new life on foundations of lies. Her partner didn't even know her real name. History repeating or redemption beginning. That evening, I attended Tammy's 8th birthday party. She was thriving. Cancer in full remission, starting 2nd grade, obsessed with becoming a doctor. The Make-A-Wish party last year had solidified her career goals. Nurse Jackie. She dragged me to see her presence. Look, I got a real stethoscope, now I can practice being like you. You'll be better than me. I promised, letting her check my heartbeat. Nobody's better than you. You fight bad guys and save babies. Her innocent hero worship should have felt sweet. Instead, I thought of Marcus dying in federal custody of Lauren, pregnant with a child who'd never know its real heritage, of the 12 families slowly rebuilding what my brother-in-law had stolen. Heroes and villains weren't as clear-cut as Tammy's worldview suggested. We were all just people making choices, living with consequences, trying to balance our personal ledgers. My phone rang. Patricia with news that 3 more states were considering legislation modeled on ours. The ripple effects continued spreading. A week later, word came that Marcus had died. Complications from the attack organs shutting down despite medical intervention. His parents held a small service I didn't attend. The news barely made headlines. Just another prisoner dying in custody. But I knew the truth was more complex. A man who'd tried to murder me had died providing information that helped dozens of victims. He'd spent his last breath apologizing for crimes that could never be undone. That night, I wrote a letter I'd never send. Lauren Marcus told me about the baby. Congratulations. I hope this child brings you the redemption you're seeking. I'm still angry. Maybe always will be. But I'm also building something from the ashes of what you burned down. Laws are changing. Families are protected. Your crimes led to reforms that will prevent others from suffering what I did. Is that what you intended? Of course not. But it's what happened. Be a good mother. Teach honesty. Break the cycle. Your sister always, despite everything, Jacqueline. I sealed it in an envelope and locked it in my jewelry box next to her single letter. Someday, maybe we'd have a way to communicate safely. Or maybe these unsent messages were better. Love and anger preserved in amber, unchanging. The next month brought an unexpected honor. The American Nurses Association named me Advocate of the Year for my work, combining healthcare with fraud prevention. Standing at another podium accepting another award, I thought about the strange turns life takes. 3 years ago, I was just a night shift NICU nurse with a succulent problem. Now I was a National Advocate Survivors Champion, reluctant public figure. Nursing teaches us that healing is holistic, I told the audience. We don't just treat symptoms, we address root causes. Financial fraud is a public health crisis, destroying families and futures. As nurses, we're uniquely positioned to spot signs of abuse, offer resources, be the trusted voice that says, "This isn't normal, you deserve help." The program coordinator had asked me to share my story. I'd gotten good at the telling, hitting emotional beats without reliving trauma, inspiring without overwhelming. But this audience of fellow nurses deserved more. I want to tell you about a patient, I continued. 7 years old, leukemia, multiple rounds of chemo. She made me get well cards when I was injured, sent me brave in crayon and glitter. That child facing death with dignity reminded me that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite terror. She's cancer-free, now wants to be a doctor, still calls me her hero not knowing she was mine first. We all have that patient, the one who teaches us more than we teach them. Mine taught me that brave can be borrowed, passed between people who need it. So when you see colleagues, patients, anyone facing financial abuse, lend them your brave. Stand witness, speak truth, be the advocate they can't be for themselves yet. The standing ovation felt different this time, not for surviving violence, but for transforming it into purpose. Later at the reception, a young nurse approached nervously. "Ms. Morris, I'm Sarah. I think my brother is trying to steal my identity. Your speech. Can you help?" "Tell me everything," I said, guiding her to a quiet corner. And so it continued. Each story shared, each victim helped, each law passed. They built something larger than individual trauma, a network of survivors becoming advocates, becoming prevention specialists. My phone buzzed with a message from Mom. "Saw your speech online. Dad and I are so proud. You've become exactly who you were meant to be." But had I? Without Marcus's violence, would I have discovered this advocate's voice? Without Lauren's betrayal, would I have learned the depths of my own strength? We don't get to choose our catalysts, only our responses. That night back in my apartment, I pulled out Tammy's latest creation, a hand-drawn comic book titled Nurse Jackie, Hero of Hearts. In her version, I flew between hospital rooms and courtrooms, saving babies and fighting villains with equal ease. The real story was messier. Villains who were also victims. Heroes who sometimes felt broken. Justice that came at devastating cost. But maybe Tammy's version held truth too. That ordinary people could do extraordinary things when circumstances demanded. My shoulder ached as I prepared for bed, phantom pain from an injury that had healed as much as it ever would. Tomorrow brought another NICU shift, another family needing fraud resources, another piece of legislation to review. But tonight I sat with the strange gratitude that comes from surviving the unsurvivable. Marcus was dead. Lauren was gone. The Torinos were destroyed. And from that wreckage, something unprecedented had grown. Laws protecting the vulnerable resources for the victimized, proof that saying no to exploitation was worth any price. The transformation was complete. Jacqueline Morris, NICU nurse, had become Jacqueline Morris, national advocate. Not by choice, but by necessity. Not through desire, but through surviving what should have destroyed her. The glow-in-the-dark stars in my childhood room had been replaced by real ones visible from my apartment balcony. I stood watching them, thinking of Lauren somewhere under the same sky, teaching her child to be better than we were. Change was possible. Redemption, maybe. But first came survival, then purpose, then the slow work of building better from the broken. Tomorrow I'd continue that work. Tonight I simply stood witness to how far we'd all come from that bloody Sunday when saying no had nearly cost everything, but ultimately gave me more than compliance ever could. The stars didn't judge or absolve. They simply shone constant despite darkness, like hope, like the courage borrowed from a 7-year-old, like the future built one saved family at a time. 5 years after Marcus Wheeler tried to kill me with a baseball bat, I stood in my wedding dress studying my reflection in the childhood bedroom mirror. The scar on my lip had faded to a thin white line, barely visible under carefully applied lipstick. My shoulder, despite years of physical therapy, still protested when I raised my arm to adjust my veil. Some wounds leave permanent marks, but they don't have to define you. "You look beautiful," Mom said from the doorway, tears already threatening her mascara. "Your father's going to lose it when he sees you." Through the window, I could see guests gathering in the backyard where this nightmare had begun. The same lawn where I'd collapsed bloody and broken now hosted white chairs and an archway draped with roses. We'd deliberately chosen this location, reclaiming the space, transforming trauma into triumph. Any word from... I didn't finish the question. We both knew who I meant. Mom shook her head. The letter you sent through the FBI was delivered, but you know she can't respond. Can't risk exposure. Lauren. Somewhere in America with a different name, raising a 4-year-old who would never know their aunt. I'd send a single message through official channels when I got engaged. Getting married. Wish you could be here. Despite everything, you're still my sister. No response came, but I hadn't expected one. Witness protection was for life when you'd testified against the mob. A knock interrupted my melancholy. 5 minutes, Jackie, Sharon called through the door. My maid of honor, fellow nurse, and the friend who'd stood by me through everything. I touched the pearl necklace at my throat, a gift from the 12 families Marcus had defrauded. They'd pooled resources to buy it when they heard about my engagement. From all of us, you helped rebuild, the card had read, each pearl representing a life reclaimed. Downstairs, Dad waited in his best suit, fighting tears. My warrior daughter, he said simply, taking my arm. Ready. Always. The back door opened to reveal transformed space. Where crime scene tape once fluttered, ribbons now danced in the breeze. Where my blood had stained concrete flower petals created an aisle. Where police cars had gathered friends and colleagues filled chairs. But it was the man at the altar who held my attention. James Chen. No relation to the FBI agent who'd saved my life. A fellow nurse I'd met at a conference on trauma-informed care. He'd known my story before our first date, had seen me testify on C-SPAN, had read about the trial, and he'd asked me to dinner anyway. You're not defined by what happened to you, he'd said on our third date. You're defined by what you did with it. Now he waited steady and sure as Dad walked me past faces that mapped my journey. Detective Williams retired but still protective. Agent Chen, now deputy director, who'd flown in from D.C., Patricia Coleman, who'd become a second mother. Tammy, 11 now and cancer-free, bouncing in her flower girl dress. My colleagues from the NICU, families from the fraud support group, legislators who'd helped pass our bill, a congregation of survivors and advocates, witnesses to transformation. As Dad placed my hand in James's, a movement in the back caught my eye. A woman in a large hat and sunglasses sitting alone in the last row. My heart stopped. It couldn't be. The FBI would never allow it. The risk was too great. But something in her posture, the tilt of her head. Who gives this woman to be married? The officiant asked. Her mother and I, Dad answered, voice strong despite his tears. I forced my attention back to James, to the ceremony, to the future we were building, but awareness of that figure hummed in my peripheral vision. Jacqueline and James have written their own vows, the officiant announced. James went first, his voice carrying across the yard. Jacqueline, you've taught me that strength isn't the absence of scars, but the courage to show them. That love isn't protecting each other from hard truths, but facing them together. I promise to stand beside you in whatever battles come, to celebrate your victories and mourn your losses, to be your partner in healing and hope. My turn. I'd practiced these words dozens of times, but emotion made them fresh. James, you saw me at my most public and vulnerable, testifying against criminals, advocating for strangers, carrying trauma I couldn't hide. And you chose to love not despite those things, but because of them. I promise to build our future on foundations of truth, to face forward while honoring what brought us here, to love you with the fierce protectiveness I learned defending my own life. The rings. Tammy bounced forward with such enthusiasm she nearly tripped. The congregation laughed, tension breaking into joy. She'd insisted on being ring bearer as well as flower girl. I'm multitasking like Nurse Jackie. As James slipped the ring onto my finger, I caught another glimpse of the woman in the back. She'd tilted her head down, but I could see tears streaming beneath the sunglasses. By the power vested in me by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I now pronounce you husband and wife." James's kiss was tender, mindful of the hundreds of eyes and the photographer capturing everything. But in that moment, only we existed, two trauma nurses who'd found love in the aftermath of violence. The reception erupted in our backyard-turned venue. The mysterious woman had vanished during the congratulations, leaving only an envelope on her chair. Security swept it for safety before handing it to me. Inside a single sheet of paper in handwriting I'd recognize anywhere. "Jay, I know I shouldn't be here. Know it risks everything. But I couldn't miss watching my baby sister get married. You were right in court. I chose to become someone monstrous. But watching you choose to become someone magnificent gives me hope that redemption exists. Be happy. Be loved. Be everything our family was meant to be before I broke it. The little one sends Aunt kisses they don't know they're sending. Forever your sister. Whether you want me or not, L." "You okay?" James appeared at my elbow, concerned. I folded the letter carefully. "Yeah, just family stuff." He knew not to push. We'd built our relationship on respecting each other's ghosts. The reception flowed like water. Dinner, toasts, dancing. Patricia Coleman spoke about transformation, how the worst experiences could forge the strongest advocates. Detective Williams, slightly drunk, told the story of a young woman who'd refused to be intimidated by the mob. Bravest damn thing I've seen in 30 years of police work. When it came time for the sister of the bride dance, traditionally the bride's dance with her sister, I'd planned to skip it, but the DJ, not knowing our history, announced it anyway. I stood to explain, but Mom caught my hand. "Dance with me," she said. "I'll stand in for who's missing." So we danced mother and daughter to a song about unbreakable bonds. Halfway through, Dad cut in, then Sharon, then Patricia. By the end, I danced with a dozen women who'd become my sisters by choice rather than blood. "Family isn't just DNA," Tammy announced loudly, making everyone laugh. "It's who shows up," out of the mouths of babes. As evening deepened, James and I stole moments between greeting guests. "No regrets?" he asked during one such break. "About having it here where everything happened." I looked around the transformed yard, where I'd once lain, bleeding children now played, where police had gathered evidence, friends now gathered in celebration, where trauma had lived, joy now resided. No regrets, this is our home, our story. We don't run from it, we transform it. The party continued past midnight. Gradually, guests departed with hugs and promises to keep in touch. Tammy fell asleep on a lawn chair, her flower girl dress grass-stained from enthusiastic dancing. Her parents carried her out, but not before she mumbled, "Best wedding ever, Nurse Jackie." Finally, only family remained. Dad and James's father discussing military service. Our mothers comparing notes on wedding planning survival. James and I collapsed on the porch swing, exhausted but exhilarated. "So, Mrs. Chen," he said, testing out the new name. "What's next?" "Tomorrow breakfast with my parents. Next week, back to the NICU and fraud prevention board meetings. Next month, our honeymoon in Costa Rica. And long term," I considered. 5 years ago, I couldn't have imagined surviving the week, much less building this life. Now possibilities stretched endlessly forward. Keep fighting for families. Keep saving tiny humans. Maybe some not-so-tiny humans of our own someday. I glanced at him. "That okay with you?" "More than okay, though our kids are going to have one hell of a story about how their parents met." Mommy was testifying against the mob when Daddy thought she was the bravest woman he'd ever seen. Something like that. We sat in comfortable silence watching the stars. The same stars that had witnessed my collapse now blessed our union. Time really did transform everything. "I love you," James said simply, scars and all. "I love you too. Thanks for seeing past them to who I could become." Not past them, through them. They're part of your story, part of what made you who you are. I love the whole package. A car drove slowly past our house, unusual for this time of night. For a moment, my heart raced. Old fears died hard. Then I recognized the vehicle, Agent Chen doing a discreet security sweep, still protective even at my wedding. Some things from the past would always linger. The FBI still monitored possible threats. My shoulder would always ache before storms. Lauren would always be gone, living under another name, with a child I'd never meet. But we'd survived. More than that, we'd thrived. Built something beautiful from the wreckage, turned no into a movement trauma, into purpose isolation, into community. "Ready to go in?" James asked. "Big day tomorrow, first official day as the Chens." "In a minute." I wasn't ready to leave this perfect moment. This yard that had seen the worst and best of my life. This swing where Mom used to read me stories now, where I sat with my husband. This space reclaimed and transformed. My phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number, but the message made me smile. "Saw the wedding announcement in the paper. So proud of the woman you've become. Thank you for showing me strength exists. One of the 12 families you saved." James read over my shoulder. "Still rippling outward, your impact." "Our impact," I corrected. "You were at that trauma conference too. We do this work together now. Partners in all things." "Partners in all things," I agreed. We finally headed inside, leaving the yard to its memories and moonlight. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new families to help, new battles to fight. But tonight was for celebrating how far we'd come. In my childhood room now, the guest room, I carefully hung my wedding dress. The woman in the mirror looked nothing like the terrified girl who'd fled Marcus's bat. This woman bore scars, but wore them like armor, knew her worth beyond others' opinions, had learned that family was chosen as much as born, that love could bloom in aftermath, that surviving was just the first step toward thriving. "Thank you," I whispered to that long-ago girl who'd said no, who'd refused to sign, who'd chosen principles over peace. "You saved us all." Downstairs, James was helping Dad lock up Mom, fussing over leftover cake. Normal family sounds in a house that had witnessed extraordinary trauma and triumphant recovery. I thought of Lauren one last time, hoping she'd found peace in her exile. Of Marcus dead these 3 years, but whose list of victims had led to dozens of recoveries. Of the Torinos, their criminal empire crushed by one nurse's refusal to comply. Strange how life's trajectories shifted on single decisions. Say yes, and I'd have been a broke, bitter co-signer to fraud. Say no, and here I stood. Advocate, wife, survivor, thriver. The choice seemed obvious in retrospect, but in that moment, bleeding and terrified, it had taken everything I had to refuse. "Coming to bed?" James called from the doorway. "Yeah, just processing." "Take your time. I'll be here when you're ready." He would be. That was the miracle of it. People who stayed, who saw your worst moments, and chose to build something better beside you. I closed my eyes and made a wish. For all the families still trapped in cycles of financial abuse, for all the siblings being pressured to sign, for all the victims who hadn't yet found their voice. May you find your no. May you survive the backlash. May you discover that losing toxic family means gaining yourself. And may you, like me, transform that loss into something luminous. "Good night, house," I whispered, heading to join my husband. "Thank you for keeping us safe." The walls held their silence, but I felt their blessing. This place that had seen violence become sanctuary. These rooms that had heard screams now echo with laughter. This foundation that had supported us through everything and would continue standing strong. Tomorrow the work continued. Tonight love had won. And that was enough, more than enough. That was everything. If you or someone you love is facing family financial abuse, know this: you are not alone. Your safety and future matter more than any signature. Real love doesn't require financial destruction. Resources exist, help is available, and sometimes the most loving word you can say to family is no. Thank you for joining me on Jacqueline's journey. May we all find the courage to protect ourselves while helping others do the same. Remember, the blood relation means nothing if it comes with conditions that could destroy your future. Choose yourself. Always choose yourself. What would you do if family asked you to risk everything for their mistakes? Have you ever had to choose between helping loved ones and protecting yourself? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to hear more stories of survival and triumph. Share it with anyone who needs to hear that saying, no to exploitation is not just okay, it's necessary. Thank you for listening, for caring, and for being part of a community that believes in protecting the vulnerable and supporting survivors. Until next time, remember, you deserve family who builds you up, not those who tear you down. Stay strong, stay safe, and never be afraid to protect your future.